Merry Mythmas. I'm your host today, Nitty, for day 2 of the Mythmas charity. So yes, welcome. We are here to raise money to bring Skeptic Haven to 501(c) status so that we can become a charity and take care of some of the costs and get this really going for a lot more people, to reach out to the community and be a safe place for people to deconstruct their beliefs. I am joined by Oz, a tremendous DJ over at The Flavor. It's an honor to have you on co-hosting this. So yeah, how you been?
I'm good, man. How you been?
Yeah, I can't complain. I've been having fun on the YouTubes. You too?
On YouTubes. Yep. I just yeah. What's up, mother? No, I want to do that because I know every time I'm on here feels like counting how many times I have to avoid using the F word. So that was fun for Phil.
Right. Do we need to keep a jar where you donate like $1 every time you attempt to use the F word?
You could probably raise a lot of money that way.
Sounds about right. It'll be the gift that keeps on giving. It's odds saying the F word and giving us $1. So, or you know what? Maybe I would do a match to help it out.
And you might get to the nonprofit status, but you also might get your channel taken down. So it's a blessing and a curse.
Right. It's a double-edged present. Okay, so let's not waste too much time because we're going to have a lot of guests on today. We're going to welcome on Chris Shelton and Chad Harris.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I've actually never been on a show or anything with you guys. So it's a privilege to meet you. I did some stalking of your social media presences, and I actually am very happy to be sharing this event with you because I am formerly a part of a church that has been called a cult a lot. And I would agree on lots of levels, though, you know, that thing where you're a part of a group like that and you do get connected with people and you can really see how it's not so much them, but the group. That's the problem. It's the ideology they bought into. If they didn't have that, they'd be fine. Right. And so I like to say, I don't hate them. I hate, their institution. Right. So
would you say what the group is?
Yeah, it's Dwell Community Church in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but you can do some research.
Yeah, no, I guess I will.
Yeah.
There's so many out there, there's so many. I mean, there's thousands of groups, and they're not all just religious, that form up what we call cults, right? And destructive cults.
Yep.
And unfortunately, any group can become that if the codependency enters in and leaders starts taking advantage and things get out of hand, and sometimes that's how it happens. Is it just kind of acts, not accidentally, but it doesn't look like it's going in that direction. Then suddenly, it is.
Hey, Chris, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Do you think Scientology is a cult?
Yes, I do. Why? Yes.
Right. Yeah, Oz, I'm going to leave this in your trusted hands, and I'm going to hop off and fix the animal park, I guess. So,
okay.
But yeah, I will be back to rein you guys in. Right.
Yeah, I was born and raised or not born, but raised in Scientology, and got out about 10 years ago.
Okay, awesome.
So that's my thing.
Let's do the get to know you segment here real quick. That way, because it's my first time talking to you guys as well. So awesome meeting you guys. So Chris, if you want to give us the elevator pitch, so to speak, what books, what you're doing, what you're about, that kind of thing, and then Chad will move on to you.
Absolutely, yeah. My claim to fame is I grew up in Scientology, and I worked for it for 27 years. I did the whole billion-year contract Sea Org thing with the uniforms and the blue buildings in LA and all of that. And I was as in as you can get. I was into saving the world and making the world a better place, and I thought Scientology was going to do it. And 10 years ago, I started waking up to the fact that that isn't the case. It took way too long to wake up, but I did. And ever since then, I've been working on exposing the abusive cults that are out there. Scientology is, first and foremost was the first target. Now I'm just kind of cults in general, right? And I've written a book about Scientology if people are interested in that. But I went and got, went back to university, got a degree, figured out the psychology of it, and that's what I talk about on my channel. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here on the show, but I'm also glad you're here and not there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Glad you found your way out. And Chad, again, nice to meet you as well. Tell us a little about you and what you're doing.
Absolutely, Oz. Thanks for having me. Well, I'm Chad Harris. Some of you may have seen me on a docu-series this past year called Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets, in which they covered the cult that I was raised in, which is called the Institute in Basic Life Principles, or IBLP. It was a cult started by a man named Bill Gothard, who back in the 60s and 70s was like, hey, I have the answer for all the problems that are happening in the world. And eventually he gained a huge following, which included the Duggar family of ex-teen kids and counting on TLC. I grew up in a non-on-camera part of the cult, and I've spent a lot of my social media presence trying to raise awareness of the cult. Thankfully, more people have heard of it now than any other time, I think, in history. And hopefully with that awareness, we'll be able to get the rest of IBLP shut down. In addition to that, I was raised as a independent fundamental Baptist. My dad was a preacher in that denomination, and that in and of itself is another whole fundamentalist, I would say, cult buffet, but that's a long story on that one. But I am a proud atheist and skeptic, and I've had the opportunity to speak on this channel a couple times, and I support y'all's work and want to see y'all hit that nonprofit status. So yes, please donate, folks.
Yeah, exactly. Please.
And for everybody tuning in, thank you for hanging out with us today. And remember that this is to help the channel and the organization, let's say, as a whole, get to that nonprofit status. So every penny matters, and I've held 2 LLCs in my past, and it's not cheap, it's not easy, and there is cost that's involved. But I'm always interested in, when I'm talking to anyone that previously held a deeply held belief or was part of a cult, however you want to reference it, because I come from a very fundamental Christian, like the Benny Hinn, Rod Parsley, Kenny Copeland world, right? The psychos, as I call them. So the way I like to ask it so quickly, my experience, or the way I try to describe it is, if you think you're driving a car and like you get like just a little like a little nick in your windshield, and it's like right in front of you, as much as you try to pretend that it's not there, it's there, right? And your eyeball just now drifts to that, whether you're at a stoplight or whatever. That's what happened to me with my faith journey. Is all of a sudden there was this little chink, right? This little dink in the windshield, and I couldn't look away from it, and it started to cause doubt and questions. And next thing you know, that little tink, now it just spider webbed, right? Because the more I dug in, the more it was like, holy right? Like we have major fundamental problems right here, right? So Chad, I'll start with you first this time. Was there a moment like that for you where there was that, like internally there was that question, that doubt, and then it kind of started to spread, so to speak, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, that's actually an amazing way to put that, because that's pretty much how it happened for me. My doubt started with fundamentalism in general, because there were certain people in the fundamental Baptist world that you just basically put on a pedestal. They were untouchable as far as reputation went. They were supposed to be mighty men of God that, did so much to further the cause and such. And come to find out, a lot of them, as I got older and I actually, became an adult and, could find things on the internet about them and such, it turns out a lot of them were abusive. A lot of them had some very horrible, abusive, even criminal acts that they did. And when I approached my dad about it, because he was a preacher in this denomination, I said, "Hey, what's up with all this?" He says, "Oh, that's the stuff we don't talk about because that could hurt the ministry."
Right.
And it was that, like you said, pretending that the little chip in the windshield isn't there. Like, I learned very quickly. I said, "Oh, wait," because when I was brought up in this, I was taught that this is the only safe place to be in life. Everything else outside of fundamentalism and the Institute and Basic Life Principles was designed to harm you, that you're facing a world system that's trying to hurt you. And when I found out that all of a sudden fundamentalism and even friends of mine who were in the system as well were being hurt, when I found out it was not safe in the system, and the fact was, we couldn't talk about the people who weren't safe. That was when everything started to really crack and shatter in a spider web. And then when Bill Gothard, when it came out about his abuses in 2014, when he stepped down as head of IBLP, that was when everything shattered, because that was my early education. That was most of my life up to that point that I followed that. So it was just thing upon thing upon thing that we weren't allowed to talk about. But when I started noticing and I started asking questions about, that's when it all became real, and that's when I had to basically rebuild my belief system from scratch. So you're right. That is a very apt analogy, and I'm hoping that channels like this help people who are in that situation explore those questions and get out of the dangerous situations that they're in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the ones I tend to use is either that example, or I think first person I heard use the pebble in the shoe analogy was Anthony Magnabosco. I mean, I've heard other people. I think that's the first time I heard it though. But those kind of things where it's like you want to pretend it's not there, but it's there. So Chris, how about you? What started your process and walking away and now wanting to be vocal and oppositional to the bad ideas or the bad beliefs?
Right. Well, I grew up in this pretty intense cult and got all the way in. And when you're signing a $1 billion contract, you're you're pretty far in, right? and thinking that actually means something, right? That I'm going to dedicate not just this life, but the next hundreds, millions of lives to fulfill that contract. That's pretty hardcore. And so my process of leaving was a process of a 10-year thing of seed planting or doubts building, right? You get I totally understand the analogy with the pebble in the shoe and the cognitive dissonance, the mental questioning and difficulty and problem, that conflict that causes a person. That was a 10-year process for me, from the first point of seeing something that was very, very wrong with the organization. And I was working for the group. I wasn't just a paying dues member. I was all in, and I was 24/7 on Scientology. That's all I did with my life. And so I was working in those blue buildings in LA, where that's where I lived, that's where I worked, that's where I slept, that they fed me, they clothed me, all of it. And from that first moment of, wait a minute, something's really, really wrong here, to finally getting out, I guess I could say the final nail in the coffin, because there was physical abuse and there was, a lot of torment and a lot of nonsense going on in that group. But the final thing was when I realized, sort of for myself one day, like kind of one of those see the light moments, kind of one of those epiphany moments, like, oh, wait a minute, I'm lying to people more often than I'm telling them the truth in order to sell them on Scientology. I have to lie. My day-to-day has to be a lie. I have to lie and lie and lie. And I was like, whoa, right? Once you see that, once the framing kind of like that 3D picture thing, once you see it, you're like, oh, there it is. It was like that kind of moment. And once that happened, again, you can't unsee it. And I couldn't compromise with it. I couldn't say that wasn't the case. And I didn't want to be a liar. I didn't want to live my life that way. And the lies of Scientology slowly started kind of opening up to my view once I was willing to look. And that's the big barrier, is you got to be willing to look. And we're so unwilling because we're so sold on how sure and true and certain this is, and how dare you question this, right? You're the one who's wrong, and how dare you? So once you get past that, you got to go, oh, wait a minute. So that began the process. And then by a year, year and a half later, I got out of the Sea Org, got out of that whole billion-year contract deal, and was kind of out in the real world again. And that's when I got internet access. And that's when I really learned what was going on. So that was kind of the process for me.
I think the internet, if there is a God out there somewhere, and I say if very flimsily, his worst idea was the internet.
Yeah, no shit.
Because all of a sudden we have all this shit right at our fingertips. But
that's right.
No, thank you both for sharing that. And I also want to make sure that we highlight your guys' your content and what you're doing before we run out of time, because
Sure.
I know anytime we do this, it's like half hour. That's a long time, but it goes by like at 17 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Exactly.
So Chris, if you want to start telling us, because I know you have the book there, but tell us about your book, or anything else that you're doing on YouTube or whatever, as far as skepticism and exiting these bad ideas and whatnot. Floor is yours.
No, I basically talk about cults and coercive control. That's what my degree is in. And so I can talk about that, kind of from a high level, whether it's domestic violence or domestic situations or cults or gangs or trafficking, however it manifests. And so I try to expose the abuses of cultic groups and activities, whether it's religious or non-religious. And Scientology is where I came from. So there's a ton of stuff on my channel about Scientology. I've been producing content about cults all for the last 10 years. And I've talked with psychologists and sociologists. I've even talked with neuroscientists about cult thinking and what brings that about and how to recover from it. Because most of my channel has been about, sort of documenting my recovery and helping people out. And from that has come a consulting kind of service where I will consult with people. I'm not a licensed therapist. I don't pretend to be. I'm not doing anything like that. But if people need advice or intervention or help or guidance on, either post-cult recovery for themselves, or they're a family or friend who's in a cult and they don't know what to do. People routinely screw it up. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to talk to them. They don't know how to approach it. And so they end up getting mad at the person, or, getting into arguments with them. And it only makes it worse.
Yeah.
And so there is a way that you can go about getting people out. And I try to help people with that too. So that's kind of what my life and channel has evolved into over these years. And
awesome.
Then I wrote a book about Scientology. So that's this book here.
Awesome. And where do they find all this amazing information? Where can they go to?
All on my channel. It's Chris Shelton, MSc. On YouTube, you can look up my channel. And then my book is on Amazon as a published book, ebook, or audiobook.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you. And Chad, how about you? What do you have going on, either written or on these fine interwebs?
Well, sorry. So, as I said before, I'm on Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets on Amazon Prime. That's probably about the, best basic way you can kind of see, what I've been up to as far as raising awareness. I also have a TikTok channel, Arch Radish, where I spend most of my time talking about the current state of IBLP, some of the ideas behind IBLP and how it worked, and, the impact of cults and cult ideologies here in the present, especially when it concerns Christian nationalism, which is a huge concern these days. I also, talk about my thoughts on atheism as I see it and such. And, just to preface, I'm not an expert. I do come from a very educationally limited background and everything, so everything's pretty much just my opinion as I see it. Don't think I'm here to, give professional advice or anything. But you can find me on both of those places. You can find me pretty much anywhere on the internet where you see Arch Radish. That's probably me. It's just Chad Harris mixed up. That's all it is. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, and I'm glad that people have been following that. I'm glad that awareness has been raised, and I just hope that more fundamentalist cults, face the accountability that they need to. So that's been my focus.
Yeah, big time.
So I'll before we hit the end here, try to ask maybe another one or two questions as far as advice, for whether it's someone that's watching or listening right now, or maybe, they see this later, they a year from now, they stumble upon this. When let's we'll just use my situation as an example, coming out of fundamental Christianity, kind of what you guys talked about before. When you start asking questions, you're wrong, period. Right? You're the one that you're not getting it, right? You're not understanding it. What would you tell someone that if I came to you and said, I have a lot of questions and they're telling me it's not okay to ask these questions, that there's something wrong with me because I'm asking these questions, whichever one of you wants to go first, what would you say to that person?
Do you want to go, Chad?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I would say, first off, my first response would be, it's completely okay that you're asking questions, and thank you very much for asking me these questions. You absolutely have the right to ask any question you want at any time of any group or any person. That's a fundamental right according to our Bill of Rights and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So let's clear that up right away. There's nothing wrong with you asking questions. However, when people don't necessarily want to or don't have the answers to give you that make sense within, how they think about things, they will tell you to shut up. And that's probably some of what you're running into. So what kind of questions do you have, and how can I help you answer them? And that's how I would approach it. Very open-ended.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I would also add to that, there are people who are trained to help you with any questions that you have, or any or anything you just need to talk through. More than anything, when you have questions, you need someone to just express your ideas without fear of judgment. And I would recommend, for starters, there is just no substitute for good therapy. And I would say, to the best of your ability, as much as you can, find a licensed professional therapist or counselor, and just talk them out in a non-judgmental way with a person who's there to help you. I mean, healthy people go to therapy, and if you feel like there's something in your life that is unhealthy mentally that you need to work through, absolutely reach out to as many professional licensed resources as you can. And yes, absolutely, just I'm all about destigmatizing seeking help. So that is something I definitely recommend in addition to that.
Yep. I love that you said that, and I'm a huge not just supporter but a participant in therapy.
Absolutely. Same.
Yeah.
Is essential. But thank you guys for those answers. Nitty, I see you jump back in. I want to make sure.
I'm not trying to rein it in just yet. Yeah. I want to say, Chad, thank you for being on that documentary, because I actually watched it entirely with my wife, who's the thing. And, I imagine that must have taken a toll on you to some extent, right? I mean,
a bit.
It could be. I don't know. Yeah. I can't remember how far removed you were from it by the time you did the documentary. But I mean, for me, hearing all of the stories and the things that people had to overcome, I don't know how much you guys got to hear each other's stories while you filmed it. You know what I mean? And if you did, like, how was that? Like, how did you get past that yourself? Or did you not really have to? Or, I'm just so curious.
Yeah, that's fine. So two other participants in the documentary are really good friends of mine. That would be Lindsay Williams and Heather Heath. You may know them as the pink-haired girl who worked at headquarters, and the one who talked about the devil sticks, basically her tampons, as it were, as they were described in the thing. So they're very good friends of mine, and we actually at one point did film together. They didn't use much of the footage in the final documentary, but we did film for an entire day together one day in Fayetteville, about this time last year, actually. And we've always talked like behind the scenes, everything. We knew each other on TikTok long before we got involved with the documentary. Okay. And at one point during the doc, when we were filming together, Lindsay, and she was filming a very long segment herself. Me and Heather were standing to the side, and she did break down a little bit and start crying. And because, like you said, it takes a toll, and all of us felt it. Like, it was an emotional roller coaster throughout the project. And Heather, ever the wonderful person she is, she ran up to Lindsay, grabbed her in an embrace, and said, "I love you so much. I saw your freedom." And at that point, they both pulled me into the hug, and we just stood there. And I realized in that moment that the safety and support that we were promised in the cult that we didn't get, we found in each other. And the support that I got from my, fellow castmates there, and just, everyone who has reached out ever since, has made it all worth it. It doesn't change what happened, but I feel that it can help the hurt from ever happening again. And if it happens for just a few more people, it was totally worth it.
Yeah, the reason I'm curious too is because with things like that, you might not stop to think, like, have they talked to each other? Not that like you wouldn't, but maybe some people just see it as kind of more of a higher, more like removed documentary. Like they kind of like got like picked you up like different fruit that fell from a tree, right?
And
like,
to be fair, a lot of us didn't know each other beforehand. Okay. We didn't even know we participated until the documentary released. But I will say it was a mixture of both. Like, there were certain people who just had never talked to each other, and then there were certain of us who had been friends for some time.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations, both of you, on being willing to question your beliefs and go past the world you knew, and take those steps out and get to where you are today, and to continue to give of yourselves so that other people can have the freedom that you do today. So
thank you.
I want to thank you guys for doing what you're doing now.
I'll also recommend anybody who might be more interested in Scientology to check out the Going Clear documentary from Alex Gibney, or Scientology in the Aftermath, which is a 3-season documentary put together by Leah Remini and Mike Rinder, which I got to be on twice. So that was a lot of fun. And that really breaks it down for people. I mean, really, in a really, visual, and a lot of interviews and stuff like that, sort of along the same lines as so many of the other documentaries we're seeing now. I love the fact that cult documentaries are actually a subgenre now, like full on, of true crime documentary.
Same.
Like full on. Like, it's not even like it's gonna be like a fad. It's just going. And 10 years ago, when I first started doing this, that it wasn't that way. There was not as much interest in this. There was not as much familiarity with it, and people were not even particularly familiar with the tropes or the lingo or how this stuff works. And now they are much more aware. And while there's still a lot of misconceptions out there, it's very, very encouraging. So I'm very happy about that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on and being a part of this amazing fundraiser. Again, if you guys are curious, they both have a social media presence. Chad, you were on TikTok as Archradish.
Correct.
I heard that correctly. And Chris, give the name of your channel one more time.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's Chris Shelton, MSC. And you can find me on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Use Chris Shelton, MSC. You'll find me everywhere. Yeah, I've been doing this for a while, so I got to kind of get myself out there. But, it's all in the service of just trying to help people. And the thing about my channel content is it's not reactionary stuff. It's evergreen. You can go to videos I did 5 years ago on cult recovery or cult recruitment or cult retention or whatever. It's all still legit. It's all still very current, very useful information. That's what my channel's for. It's a database of information about cults, and that's, so I hope people will
take advantage of
that. Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's about time.
Yeah.
For us to bring on our next guest. So thank you so much. We're gonna kick you off and bring on our next two wonderful, 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 wonderful guests. We are going to be joined by Maya Atkinson and Mandisa Thomas.
What up?
Welcome, welcome.
Hey, I've never seen the two of you in my life.
Hello.
And
Are you ready?
Mandisa, I'm happy to finally, I don't know, I guess talk to you. I've known who you are for a couple of years. I think we have a couple of friends in common. And believe it or not, we've never actually spoken.
Yes.
Yeah, Mandisa, I've seen you, I believe,
Well,
on
now
the
is the
Atheist
day for that.
Experience.
So yeah, I'm glad. Thank you.
And that's my familiarity with you.
Atheist Experience, The Line, Talk Heathen, you know, all the other shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. And
All right.
hey,
Well,
Oz, how
Oz-
you doing? It's been a while.
It has. I'm chilling. I'm
Take
doing
it away,
good,
buddy.
How are you?
Good. I'm doing
Good.
well. You know, it's been quite a year, but I'm glad. I'm glad that we're at the holiday season, and you know, just glad to be in good company. So that's always great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mary Myth. I love the Mythmas thing, you know, because those of you who know me, I'm a mythicist, so that's a whole other conversation that will take up way too much time. So let's for anybody that, for whatever reason, they've been living or hiding under a rock and don't know who you guys are. Maya, let's start with you. What you do, what your channel is about, and then Mandisa will move to you.
Yeah, that rock doesn't have to be too big if you don't know who I am. My name is Maya Atkinson. I have a tiny little channel at Maya Atkinson. Growing in popularity are Sunday shows called Bad Science Sundays, and it's where we take people peddling pseudoscience. And, you know, it's kind of funny because we started it just as like more of like a comedy show where we laugh at stupid ideas. And it was supposed to be, you know, the week is so hard. And I really wanted Sundays to, you know, before you go to bed, come hang out with me, laugh, get the week started on a good note. And lately, though, people have been like, more science, more science. And I'm like, hey, slow down. I promised you that we would showcase bad science. I never said that we would do good science. But I have a psychology degree, and my co-host actually has a PhD in physics. So calling for good science isn't wrong, and he's actually very good at what he does. So we are at least going into the new year going to be more debunking focused. Just so that if anybody comes by the channel, you know, we're still gonna have a laugh, we're still gonna have fun, but it is just as important, or probably more important, to explain why beliefs are bad, more so than that they're bad. So I also want to, another part of my stream, like we try to debunk bad beliefs by giving good beliefs. The shows that are more me focused are more, I don't know, SJW-ish. So I like doing things where we bring in, I think, Mandisa, you know, Jena, Oz's girlfriend, and Cynthia, also Nikki. I had them on last year to bring in Black History Month. I also did a women's stream to bring in March. We did a Juneteenth stream, but I also had I've had a couple of LGBT focused streams. Which, you know, my community, I'm very happy that they're embracing, you know, all the letters and kind of showing what, you know, what am I? What does that mean? And so that more people can relate. So I don't want to take up too much time. I know I've been I've been talking a lot, and I have a tendency to do that, but I do see a lot of people that come by my show in the audience, and I love you guys so much, and I know you know that. But yeah, we're just going to keep it going in the new year, and we're going to keep it positive, and we're going to, you know, still be by the community and for the community.
Awesome. Yes, and the Sunday science shows are hilarious, so you will laugh. And Mandisa, tell us everything that we need to know.
Absolutely. So I am the founder and president of Black Nonbelievers, which is headquartered in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And we've been going strong now for going on 13 years in January. And we've been doing our YouTube show In the Cut, which Maya, I need to talk to you about in the very near future, about having you on as a guest. So because the one thing that, of course, as you very well know, and as Jena and Cynthia and most everyone else knows, that in the community that it is much more challenging and it is harder for Black atheists, and especially Black women atheists. And so the focus of Black non-believers is community-based. We have been getting out there and connecting with people on the ground, with fellow non-believers of all stripes, to let them know that we're here. We've also contributed to research. We have helped our members and others tell their stories to like focus groups, and also for books, for other publications. And so we really have been instrumental in amplifying the voices and the presence of Black atheists and religion doubters just in the public. And, you know, we've done that through a number of things. You mentioned Juneteenth, Maya. We tabled at Juneteenth at an event here in Jonesboro, not in the Atlanta area, which isn't too far from the Road to Terror Museum in Jonesboro, which pays tribute to Gone with the Wind, which featured Butterfly McQueen, who was an atheist. And so people might not be familiar with her famous quote, "As my ancestors are free from slavery, I am free from the slavery known as religion." So that historical piece and those historical references to Black atheists, humanists, and non-believers is very, very important. And also, again, amplifying and getting out new voices, and also increasing the pipeline for activism, whether that is virtual or in person. And shout out to Cynthia, who was over our Chicago affiliate. You know, we just recently revived that. And so we have been, you know, we continue to engage folks in person, because that, I mean, of course, with COVID, that, you know, we've had to follow safety protocols and such. But, you know, like you said about me, just pushing back against the narrative that all Black folks are religious, for one, but also continuing to let other Black folks know that there are more of us out here. Black atheists know that there are more of us out here. We are not alone, and we are mobilizing. We are being active. And so we encourage people to get active as well. Make your voices heard, connect with other folks, and do so in a way that is meaningful, in a way that really strengthens our demographic and our community. And so that is where we just recently finished up our cruise convention for this year, BNCCon, and we're going to be doing BNCCon 2024 in November. So for those who are watching and who are interested, you definitely want to consider cruising with us. It's always a good time. It's educational, it's informative, it's affirming for a lot of people to be in the company, in the space of like-minded individuals where we can have those conversations. And we also have conversations with other folks on the cruise too, who are like, where are you? Like, or who are you? So, you know, we have those conversations with folks as well. So it really has been about engagement of all kinds, you know, definitely support-based, community-based, and also getting out there and making our voices heard and being seen, which is very, very important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad for the opportunity to meet you, because we're like 1 degree of separation from each other, and I've been meaning to like try to find you, because again, like this year I've been really LGBT focused, and which like for me, I didn't even realize that like I'm aro-ace, which is like aromantic, asexual, and which is like a little subset of its own. And there's a lot of things I've been really trying to understand what the transsexual community, because I can't relate to that, but you know, I can be an ear, I can hear their stories, I can keep bigots away from them, you know, just, you know, doing my little part, you know, wherever I can. And I been kind of focused on that part of my life this year, but I want to get back, and I've been thinking about this a lot probably in the last 2 months, where into not even just Black, but also other people of color, and bringing them out, because there was a push about 2 years ago to get more women into the community and get more people of color into the community, which is when I started seeing Jena, when I started seeing Cynthia, and when I started seeing Nikki, and when I started seeing you. I don't think people really understand what representation matters means.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, like, because I'm between Baltimore and DC. I've worked in both areas, and when you get towards the Black communities, the impoverished communities, to try to get kids motivated to do more just for themselves, you have to show Black people that came from their community, that have gotten out and are doing well. Like that's really what it takes, because like, if you didn't come from my community, you don't really represent me. Or even I was watching Taraji Henson. She's doing a remake of The Color Purple, and they were asking her like, why do you want to do this? And she's like, that's when I saw me. She is from the DC area, and for her, it was like she had the same story that I hear with a lot of our youth. Success is for white people,
right?
And a lot of people, I think you come on and you see, all these people, but it's very strongly white men, and it's not that big of a leap for a Black person to think atheism is for white people.
Right.
And it is really important for people of color to see themselves on screen, to be able to have that period where you can relate, where it's something goes off in your brain where it's just like, wow, me too.
Right.
Just to see it, and that I can come out of my situation.
Right.
Or I have the courage to come out of my situation because I saw these people before me.
Right.
And what you're doing, especially in Atlanta, is so important.
Yes. And if I may add to that, I am originally from New York, and I'm from the project. So I don't come from economic privilege at all. But I was raised with a strong sense of what it meant to be strong, of Black and strong, even though we try to fight against that trope as Black women because we're always expected to be strong.
Right.
But what I think is important is that for the Black folks to understand that it does not take a college level education to understand that there is that the concept of God is rooted in fiction, and that there historically have always been Black folks who have challenged the notion of belief, that just because the church is so prevalent, and yes, the church and religion was what a lot of Black folks clung to.
Yeah,
during
church got us through a lot of stuff.
It did, but it was more of the community. But we still have to analyze and dissect and pick apart the doctrine and how it got us here in the first place. But it's important, and it's important for people to understand that cycle. It's a vicious cycle in our communities that makes it harder for people to break away from religion and the God concept, and also to find others. But we definitely have always been out here, and it's good to just put it in that framework of, we don't have to be beholden to this now simply because traditionally our communities have been, and we're seeing a shift.
Yeah,
we're seeing a shift of people, more Black folks who are questioning, more Black folks who are taking the church to task,
especially with millennials. I'm really proud of millennials. Yes, absolutely. Millennial Black people, like they're just like, I guess I'm Christian. That's my grandma's religion, though.
Right. And so the National Museum for African American Culture just debuted a documentary called God Talk. And they showed it for a week in the DC area. I had the opportunity to attend a premiere. And so it follows 7 Black millennials from different faith backgrounds, and they represented atheism. So there was an atheist that was represented out of California. And members of Black non-believers and myself were interviewed for it. We were able to get the producers, people to represent the Black atheist perspective for this film. And we were told that we basically laid the groundwork for what Black non-religious community is. And that is through 12 years of us continuously, like, whether we were just meeting up for dinner or we were doing conferences like the Women of Color Beyond Belief conference that we co-produced, whether we were doing our 10th anniversary celebrations, the things that we were doing to continue to engage and spread the word is a result that resulted in us being involved in this very groundbreaking production, because now it gives folks who are looking for that, for that aspect of Black culture, an opportunity to see that, we are out here. We are officially out here. And so that is diverse. Like, yes, and diverse. And in itself, the Black community is so diverse.
Yes.
And that is more for the Black folks. We let them know, look, there are more than just religious folks. And that is okay. That has to be more than okay, especially as times change. As, like you said, as the millennials and the generations that are coming after us are not subscribing to those traditional beliefs anymore.
Yep.
How are they, how are you going to handle them? Are you gonna just shun them? Because I've had many people come, I can't tell my parents that I'm an atheist. Or how many times do we hear, I thought I was the only Black atheist out there.
Right. Right.
We hear that a lot. And even
Yeah.
still. So it's, everything that we're doing, all of the content creation, whether it's podcasting or doing things virtually or in person, these things are all important, and that's all the more opportunity for us to work together on these things.
Exactly.
So,
and I'm all about, whatever your mentality is, I'm about education. Whatever you know, just it needs to be based in fact. Like, that's my big thing. And I'm sorry, I just kind of want to go back when you were saying, like, how hard it is for younger Black, especially millennials, because they're having a harder way than, like, I am technically Gen X.
So am I.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, we had it a little bit easier than they did, but I mean, a lot of them are still at home. And so, how do you tell grandma that you're not going to church, that you don't believe in Jesus? Like, I don't think that a lot of people don't understand. I mean, a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. Like, just the shunning, the cattiness, the passive aggressiveness.
Oh, yes.
Even, I mean, I haven't told my family that I'm not Christian, and it's not even because I think I'd be shunned. I think being shunned would actually be easier than what staying in my life and just the little snips and jabs that they take,
trying to bring you back in and trying to shade you. The
shade.
We definitely, the shade is the shade is real. And it's unfortunate that many of us do, because I know I certainly have dealt with it. And it's something that we can never just get around. So, but I think that it helps when there is a network and support for people for dealing with that, whether it is local to your area, which is very important. And I encourage everyone. There's usually some sort of meetup group that is local to your area. And if it is inactive in any way, get more active, just step up, even if it seems intimidating, just try to step up in some way to because you never know who you might be helping afterwards. I mean, I had no idea that things would progress this far over the past 12 years, because there were other entities out there, there was certainly other programming, other content, but I think what made us unique was that we were Black atheists coming from Black communities and helping people to understand it from a Black perspective.
Right.
which you know, and then we also relate on other things. Like I know Oz is into hip hop, so am I. You know, like we are from that generation.
Right.
So we can speak to that language. You know, we can relate a whole lot more. And then coming up in the crack era, you know, coming up during those times where we saw a lot of very, very harsh things that we can just relate to other people just on that ground level with. And you know, it has been, you know, it has really been a pleasure to connect with more and to help us grow our network. You know, the one thing I always say is like, look, it's not just going to happen. You know, we don't have that belief in God anymore. It's up to us to do it.
Right. Exactly.
It really is.
Or like me, I'm like, you know, we are our own gods. You know, like if you look at like the Greek mythologies, the gods, I mean, they're doing what we're doing. You know, they were they saw a problem, they took ownership of it, they fought their own battles. They sided with, you know, they found their closest allies, they sided with them, they fought alongside them. You know, we are our own gods.
And they were also very petty at times, especially the Greek gods. The Greek gods were also very petty, you know. It's interesting how those human attributes show up in those characters. So it's like yes.
It's almost like humans have always been humans.
Absolutely.
Forever. And I encourage everyone, whether you're religious or not, to look into mythology. Like you said, look into different forms, different religions, different folklore, and you can compare and contrast the differences. You know, I mean, we're not scared of, you know, or angry, you know, like with even though I do get angry at what the concept of God has and compelled people to do. But and institutionally, you know, just personally and such. So I mean, it's a lot to deal with, it's a lot to take in. But here we are, right? Here we are now, you know, doing that work, you know, whether it is helping bring more people together, whether it is challenging people to think a different way. And even a lot of our fellow non-believers are still indoctrinated with religious practice. And it's good to be mindful about that and about how we engage. And it's, you know, everyone makes mistakes. It's okay. And it's okay to say you don't know. It's okay to say you didn't know this before, you know, but for a community that prides itself on skepticism and on learning more, that is a lifelong process. And
it
also
is
engaging people. Yeah. So,
and I see that a lot too, because like a lot of people, what I've seen them do is replace religion with some aspect of, you know, whether it's science or cliques or, you know, whatever
it's
that is. I'm like, you're doing the same thing, just with something else. Like I need you to break that chain. And it's hard. It's hard. Like I see it because I, you know, study the crap out of psychology. But and a lot of people, like, you don't know what you're doing unless it can like be broken down and you can see it like that. But I do want people to kind of look and like, how does this help me? Or is it helping me? You know, is there a different way of looking at this? And like what you were saying earlier, like, try to find people in your area. There's actually for anybody that doesn't know, there's actually an app called Meetup. And you can see what is going on in your area. I found my indivisible group to Meetup. There is an atheist group, but they don't meet all that much. I'm part of a group in my area. It's called Separation of Church and State. So there's a bunch of different things, you know, depending on and everything in every area is going to be different. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do, but also what I like when going into groups and listening to different people is that you get different ideas, that diversity of thought that I was talking about earlier. Yeah. Look, it's the Grim Reaper. Nitty, are you coming to break up my party?
No, I want to add in before other guests come in.
It's like, no, you get the airlock.
If I can mention one thing, well, two, really, I'll make them really quick. One is, well, first to say thank you to Mandisa. She introduced Jen and I to Graydon Square and Tombstone, which, if you also are a hip hop fan as we are, two amazing skeptic atheist hip hop artists I still spin their stuff on my live DJ sets on my channel. They're dope people, dope artists. So definitely check that out. And I just wanted to say, as you two were talking, I couldn't help but think about Jena the entire time, because as you guys are talking about this, she's with her very, very devoutly Christian family down in Louisiana right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've had this
Jeez.
conversation with Jena
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
And
it's
Yeah,
the
she and I
black
have
non-believer
spoken.
struggle. Like, there's a lot of similarities in it.
Mhm.
because
We could go on for 2 hours about this.
as you are both going back and forth, especially when you're talking about the shade or the passive aggressiveness,
Mhm.
I get effing pissed when I hear her have to engage with her mom, because I'm like, I would never let any human talk to me like that ever. You know, but
Right.
but I'm coming from a different place, right? So that's why I don't get, I'll
Yeah.
never get it, but I hurt for her, and then that pisses me off. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
It's the
Yeah.
love of Christ, Oz. You wouldn't
Understood.
understand.
Yeah, Mandisa, I was listening to just all the things that you were trying to build in your area for people to, to see themselves in you, right? To see that there's this whole different world to explore, to be free to explore, and to value the one life we know we have. And that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And Maya, of course, you spreading the glories of
Of bad
debunking
science.
goofiness. But also, for me, at the end of the week, you really do provide a space for us to relax, for us to kind of shoot the
Yeah.
and have a good laugh, but also feel like we have that place to hang out, right?
Exactly.
We have the space where where everybody knows your name, as Jay likes to say. So yeah, it's about that time though. And I want to thank you so much, Mandisa and Maya, for coming on and supporting this fundraiser.
Thank you for having
you guys
us.
are great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mandisa, you got to get me your, I don't know, maybe I can get you my email or something. I definitely want to make sure that we don't lose contact, because there's strength in community.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you both.
We'll see you guys later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, we definitely will be connecting. All right.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, Oz. Before we bring on our next guest, why are we here again, Oz? What is the reason for the Mythmas season?
We're raising some mother Duncan. We're raising money for the channel to their nonprofit 501c3 status.
Right.
So we're here to also do that. So there is a lot of cost, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears are going to starting it, operating it, keeping it going. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Awesome. And if you're curious how to do that, if you're feeling generous, you need to visit tinyurl.com/giftsh2023. And one more quick thing, Oz, I know you're a mythicist, and you know what's great about being a mythicist?
What's that?
You're always in the mood to debunk a myth. So let's play this clip of debunking a Christmas myth, and then we'll bring on our next guests.
Let's get it.
Surprising to even many Christians, Christmas is not the most important Christian holiday. Easter is. Think of this, everyone has a birthday, but not everyone can defeat death. Believed to bring eternal salvation.
I told you, Fred. That's right, Bon. You'd never catch me in one of those outfits.
Yo.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. I am joined by the lovely Deborah Grace. Neil, you've said that you love some Nitty, and now it's time to love on some Neil being here, and Tim, the harmonic atheist, running in a much bigger channel than when I started watching it, I think. You were one of the first channels recommended to me by the "Oh my God, I'm leaving religion" algorithm. So it's great to have you all here. And, I know the chat and everyone else is looking to hear from you and celebrate this Merry Mythmas. So, Oh my goodness, Oz, you get to take a break, and I get to bring on my next lovely co-host. I am so sorry, Stacy.
I'm just sitting in the
Oh my
back,
goodness.
just chilling.
I was like,
My
am I
goodness.
supposed to remove myself or
Yeah. Get out of
Okay,
here.
Hey,
Go
if you don't
spin
need
some
me,
records.
I
good to see you,
can-
Oz? Good to see you, Oz.
No, we need you.
Okay.
Stacy, it's good to see you.
So good to see you, Oz, for 1 second. Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Go on.
Everybody.
So yeah, how's everyone's day been going?
Been good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Pretty relaxing. Now you're here.
Yeah.
Don't be
No,
stressed.
busy.
It's fine,
busy.
it's fine.
There's never a dull moment.
Yeah.
Same.
I love this. I love this. My very first book interview was here on Skeptic Haven, and my second one
Oh.
was on Tim's channel. And I've been on Gnostic Informant too.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That
I
is
remember
cool.
that the title of your book
Shameless
is quite
plug.
controversial.
Yes.
Yes.
Crucifying the Bible.
Wait, is this Illuminati to cover one eye?
It is Illuminati, actually.
Yeah.
You've given yourself away.
Right?
Christian fears that atheists are horrible, and taking over the world. Confirmed.
You know what's funny? I was working on a video about early Christianity, and I found out that there was an early Christian sect called the Illuminati, the Enlightened Ones.
Oh.
And they were like, and their central text that they were like obsessed with was Revelation.
Of course it was.
Of course.
Why wouldn't it be?
Right.
Oh,
All right,
my
well, I'm gonna
goodness.
pop on out. Stacy, run it.
Okay. Bye, Nitty. Well, hi, everyone. It's so great to see you all and be a part of this fundraiser for Skeptic Haven. Thank you for joining us, spending some time.
I'm gonna share this to my community tab so I can get some more. I forgot about that.
Oh, thank you. So for those who might not know who you are and what you do, could we just go around and just introduce yourselves? Deborah, maybe we'll start with you.
Okay. Yeah. Like, we'll do the Illuminati thing again. I'm an author, Crucifying the Bible. My second book has had a few delays in getting published, but it is just about ready. And so that should be out next year.
Could you give us a
Yay.
little sneak peek about what it's about? Is it kind of along the same lines as Crucifying the Bible, or
Kind of.
you don't want to say?
No. It's fine. I took a different approach, though. I took the approach that I am utilizing many different sources, the DSM-5, the FBI's definition of Stockholm Syndrome, this psychological approach, and juxtaposing the scriptures next to what makes sense. And showing that the Bible is a clear and present danger to society. So I put it all out there, and I let the reader connect the dots.
Nice. That sounds really interesting.
Do a great job of that too, if I may say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have your book on my Kindle, and I've read the first few chapters, and I have a lot of books on Kindle and Audible, and I need to get through them all, but I have enjoyed what you have done. So I look forward to finishing it maybe on my next vacation.
Right.
Yeah. I need some time away from children. So
yeah.
Tim, so good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
you?
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you, Neil and Deborah and Stacey.
See you too.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone doesn't know me, I'm sorry, go ahead, Stacey.
No, go for it.
I'm so used to just jumping right for it. I'm
go.
Tim. I'm the Harmonic Atheist, and I run the channel Harmonic Atheist, and we basically mostly do long form interviews, often an hour and a half to 2 hours, occasionally 2.5 to 3 hours. But basically, it's a platform for people to really share their stories slowly, carefully, without too many interruptions, and just kind of take us through memory lane, basically, of how their worldview shaped, and then kind of what started to eventually slowly shift the balance towards skepticism and rationality. We focus a lot on that channel about things like healing from religious trauma, and just people being shunned, and just thinking through how to reclaim your identity, as well as big focus of it, and it's going to be more of a focus eventually, is really protecting children's minds, acknowledging that it's psychological child abuse to threaten kids with hell, and to, constantly telling they're sinners, and just basically to talk through it all, and hopefully encourage the people that watch them that they're not alone, that this is a journey that's other people are taking too.
Yeah. I love your channel. I love your interviews. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Likewise.
And I
Likewise.
agree. I agree with Nitty about the algo is great with throwing. And when I first left the church a couple of years ago, I found your channel and Derek Mythvision's channel right away. So it's cool to see that. Like you're recognized. It seems like Google has recognized you as someone to put in front of certain people. You know.
Yeah, it's amazing how it works. It's an awesome privilege too. It's just to be a part of this community and be part of the platforms that are here.
I agree. Yeah, it is. And Neil,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
My channel's Gnostic Informant. My name's Neil, and I recently left Christianity. Let's see, what year was it? Right at probably early 2020, maybe around there, and a couple years ago, not that long ago. And for me, one of the big things that got me to like see Christianity for what it was learning the actual history and comparing Christianity to other mythology. And that's sort of what I do on my channel, because that was what when I started to learn about ancient Greek stuff, ancient Babylonian, ancient Egyptian stuff, and I started to learn about the history of the church, that really showed me like this is a man-made thing by people trying to enforce some sort of ideology on people. And for me, that was like the shattering thing to break through it, was learning about it, so that's what I do on my channel. That's my focus. I like to dig deep into ancient sources and compare and contrast.
Yeah, it is really interesting once you start diving into that, just seeing how they all compare, and it's like, oh, this is actually not what we were told. It's not real.
And Jesus is not special.
No.
In fact, he's sort of a little late to the party. A lot of these,
right?
Like you, right before I jumped on, I saw you showed something about Easter, comparing Easter to Christianity. I'm working on a video right now that's going to be out in a couple of days where I dug up in the sources. There's sources about the celebration of the resurrection of Attis, and it's during the spring equinox. Like, get this, on the 22nd of April, they do a day of mourning, and they do all these crazy rituals. They bring a pine tree inside the temple, which is like, that's kind of odd. Yeah. But then they have a 3-day festival, 3 days exactly. And on the third day, they celebrate Attis' resurrection on April 25th.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
I'm just like, why doesn't anyone ever talk about this? There's a few scholars that talk about this stuff. M. David Litwood talks about it. But a lot of mainstream scholars never bring this up. This is a big deal. Like, it seems like a big, and then the other stuff that I'm digging up from the video that I'm working on is I see a lot of pushback online from atheists to other atheists who suggest that Christmas might have some pagan influences, and they sort of shut that down. Like, you're going too far. But like, I've dug up some sources in this video that I'm working on, and like Saturnalia, it's not just Saturnalia. It's not just Sol Invictus, but there's another festival called Brumalia, and it's a winter solstice festival where they give gifts and they celebrate and they shut the businesses down, and it's merrymaking and decorating the houses with wreaths. And I'm just like, well, how come no one talks about this stuff? So I'm gonna present some of this stuff in my next video.
Oh my gosh, that's so fascinating.
So, couple of things. Tim, how long is your list now? Because when I was on your channel, you had a very long list of things that look like Christianity, things that Christianity pulled from. And I'm just wondering, like, how much longer is that list at this point?
It's pretty extensive. I don't have a number for you today, but I will say that that's one of the biggest goals of mine. For me, I'm one of those people that when I do a project, like a big project, I think Neil and Derek are really good at just kind of, they must, hyper focus and just get it done. I guess it's a perfectionist in me that kind of cripples me a little bit, but I'm just like, I'm not going to push something until I'm like sure, and I've double, triple check stuff. And I'm just like, I'm really big into that. But what I'm doing is basically trying to take the best of all these things that we're all talking about, and assuming that some people don't have the background to understand it all. Like, who's Josephus? I don't know. What does that have to do with it? What does Maccabees have to do with anything? Just to really boil it down and say, how does this stuff fit together? And then where are the words of Jesus being copied from? Everything from Enoch to Aesop, everything. It's crazy. But the other side thing that's interesting that I'm going to try to bring in is I'm going to try to turn that from a YouTube presentation, or probably a series of presentations at some point down the line, and actually turn it into a series of kids books, so that people that are trying to protect their kids' minds could actually say, all right, like, how do we tell our kids the mythologies of that era in a way that a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old could understand it? Because obviously that's, very big on my heart. I've got 4 kids ages 3 to 9. And so I'm like, protecting their minds is forefront. So I'll definitely be weaving all that in there, and hopefully doing a good job both for the adults as well as eventually the kids.
Yeah.
But this is growing, to answer your question. It's a big list.
And I also think that religion should be taught at maybe high school level, not in a religious way, but like comparative religion.
Yeah.
Teach people about the ancient Greek religion, teach them about the ancient Hindu religion, and show them that there's a sort of way that religions are done, and Christianity is just like all the rest of them. It's nothing special or pure about it. It checks all the same boxes as everyone else. And like that really, I'm like, I keep saying this, but like that really did help me see, okay, this thing is not that special. And in fact, the other ones are, if anything, are better. Like, like, I'm just saying, like, for someone else who might like still want to like look into other things, but like, what I'm saying is, when you start to see everything for what it is and put everything on the table, it brings Christianity down from its, this is the pure one, and these are all the dirty ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really interesting that you say dirty ones, because back in 1659, the Massachusetts Bay Colony enacted a law called Penalty for Keeping Christmas. And the notion was that such festivals as were superstitiously kept in other countries were a great dishonor of God and an offense to others. And very few people know about that.
Wow.
Right. This is this is part of my video that I'm coming out with. Is like, you
don't give away spoilers. No, just joking.
I didn't know.
I'm just joking.
I'm glad you brought that up, because even in the Christian sources, and that's a later one, but that's a great one, because those Puritans are like, this is all Saturnalia, this is all Roman paganism stuff. And they're pushing away from that. But like, even before that, there's another source from a guy named Dionysius Bar Cilibi, and he's like, oh, the reason why the church is celebrating on December 25th is blah, 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 blah. You guys getting into the solstice and all that stuff. And then you have another text from, this is the craziest one. This will be the last spoiler I'll give, but I don't really care, because it'll be cool to check it out on here or on there. But there's a text from a Christian Epiphanius, a famous Christian, who wrote tons and tons and tons of stuff about heresies, about the Gnostics. And in this one passage in the Pandarion, it's in chapter 51. It's in the top of my head because I was just looking at it. He talks about a virgin birth, a goddess named Kabu, who gives birth to a god called, and he says in one place it's called the Ion. In another place it's called Dusharis. In Arabia it's called Dusharis. In Egypt it's called the Ion. And he talks about this huge ritual that they go inside these subterranean temples in Egypt, and they circle around this idol, and they gnash their teeth and wail, and they're doing all this pagan ritual stuff. And he's like, basically what he's arguing is the Christians need to stop following this pagan rite, and Jesus isn't born on the winter solstice, the pagan gods are. And he's like, and it's like, why doesn't anyone ever bring this up? Because
they did in the Bible, in Jeremiah chapter 10 verses 2-4, literally talks about what you're not supposed to do as a Christian. When I converted from Christianity to the Messianic Torah observant follower of Christ, I stopped doing Christmas because of that one passage, that you're not supposed to, for the customs of the people are in vain, for one cuts a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with an axe, they deck it with silver and gold, they fasten it with nails and hammers that it move not. That's in the Bible.
My God.
Yeah.
And Christians claim that, Christmas is their holiday. And I'm like,
we have no influences from anyone else. We're such a pure holiday. And then if you even something like gift giving and merrymaking and shutting down your businesses, they'll just wave it off. That's just general celebration. But it's like, wait a minute. I found sources about the mock king ritual still being practiced in Germany, in England, in France, all the way in the 16th and 17th century. and they're calling it Christmastide. And this mocking ritual we can find in the ancient Roman sources during Saturnalia, where they take a plebeian, which is like the lower class, and they choose somebody from the plebeian ranks to be the king of Saturnalia. And then he was in charge of his master. If he was a slave, he'd be in charge of his master. Well, they're doing this in Germany and France and in England in late medieval period. And they call it the Fool of Christmas. They just changed the name of it. That's not general celebration. That's a very specific thing. And I'm just like, look, I love scholars. I think they're all, I understand that scholars have this way of being very careful. They don't like to jump over long cliffs and jump to conclusions that aren't like sound. But to me, I think they're missing out. I think this is a really easy one. That's just me. I'm not acting like I'm smarter than everybody else and I know everything they don't. But I'm saying, like, when it comes to Christmas, I think they give the Christians a little too much leeway as like, oh, let's not, they're all, it's general merrymaking and there's nothing happening. No, it's like, no, this is obvious. Because you don't do this gift giving in general, decorating the houses with wreaths and shutting down your businesses. You don't do that for Valentine's Day. You don't do that for
exactly.
Like, this is the certain time of the year, Christmas time, December. It's a special time of the year, and it's always been that way. It seems like all this way before Christianity came along.
Yeah.
Well, and that passage opens up and it says, "Learn not the way of the heathen."
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
they did.
Yeah.
Sorry. What were you going to say?
Stacey, I was just going to add, I know that we kind of all introduced ourselves, but I just wanted to make sure we called out you and your mom, like Stacey.
Oh gosh, it's not about me. You guys are the guests.
I know, but I just want to make sure everyone knows you all have an awesome channel, and you all are just fantastic.
Oh,
people,
thanks.
So.
For sure.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you. But this is all about you guys, so I'm just here to sort of facilitate. But thank you. Yes, my mom and I do have our own channel, so you are all welcome to come on.
We're here to point out that this is a. We're
But
here
yes,
to point
a
out that this is
fundraiser.
a fundraiser event.
That's true.
For this channel.
Exactly.
So it is about you.
Yes. So thank you. Yeah, this is a fundraiser also for Skeptic Haven to become a nonprofit, to be a safe place for people while they deconstruct. So if anyone is able to help support that by clicking on that link, the tiny URL, and supporting the channel, that would just be fantastic. So please keep that in mind. But also liking, subscribing, sharing, all the things helps Skeptic Haven. So
what would you prefer for someone to donate? Would it be a super chat? Would it be
I think it's going directly to the link.
Okay.
The most helpful. Wait.
Yeah.
That was way
go directly
too short.
to the link.
What are you doing?
No. I just popped on to say go directly to the link.
Okay.
Because YouTube takes like a 30% cut.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
So please. I know it's tempting to click the money button right there because it's right there in the chat. Don't do that. Obey the commandment of Mythmas. Okay, click the link.
Okay, bye. Oh my gosh. So really quick, just to kind of get a background on where we all came from out of religion. Like you, Deborah, you said you were Christian and then you went to Messianic observing, like
Torah
Torah,
observant,
Torah observant. Yeah. So if we could just kind of get, because I know we don't have tons of time, but if we just kind of get like, what was sort of the tipping point for you? Because I would love to just know from each of us, like, what was that one thing that sort of broke the camel's back in your deconversion or your deconstruction and made you question? Because that's always interesting to know, right? So Deborah.
Okay, so real quick, I was a believer for 41 years. And I accidentally deconstructed and deconverted.
I think so many people.
I know. I went to go debunk a series of videos that was challenging the validity of the New Testament. So I actually deconstructed the New Testament first and then the Old Testament. But I think the straw that broke the camel's back for me was the actual sin sacrifice laws found in the Old Testament and how the crucifixion violates all of those.
Okay.
That was the straw for me. And I said, I can't I can't do this.
You were going deep. You were getting
Very
deep into
deep.
the tech. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a similar I didn't go that deep, but I had a similar way of having the first brick fall.
Mhm.
I was at a church that was King James only, and I thought that if this church was right, the King James should be perfect, pure, and that it should align perfectly with the oldest manuscripts. And I did a no-no, which is look up the Greek manuscripts. They tell you not to do that. And I did. I want to say, okay, if this is really the perfect and pure Bible in English, then I should be able to go online and look up the ancient Greek manuscripts and compare and just make sure that because I remember learning from my pastor. Notice how our Bible has all these extra verses and the NIV takes them out. How do you take out verses?
Yeah.
That's evil. I used to think this Bible must be evil. And then I come to find out it's not that they took verses out. It's that later Bibles added verses. And King James is part of that later tradition of these added verses from the Latin Bibles or whatever. I don't know where it came from. But the point was, when I look back at the Greek and the oldest manuscripts, those verses weren't there. Like a big example of that is 1 John 5:7. This 1 John 5:7 in the King James is super long. It's really Trinitarian. It's got the whole Trinity right there. But then you look at the Greek version and it's just one little small 3-word sentence compared to this giant paragraph, and there's no Trinity. So some Trinitarians at some point in some time added all these verses in there to get the Trinity to be. We need the Trinity to be there. And now I remember just being like, whoa, this is shattering. And I couldn't deconvert right then and there. I actually tried a different church, a Pentecostal church, because I was like, I want the Holy Spirit. I want to start speaking in tongues. And I tried out the Pentecostal church, and then I just left. And once you do one thing, once that one brick falls, it's a matter of
it just all comes tumbling down
the
like
whole
the walls of Jericho.
Yeah. Okay, that too.
My last day and I want to hear Tim's story too.
Yeah.
My last day in church was going to get baptized again, because I was like, maybe if I baptize myself, I'll feel it. And I went my last day. I have a video of it, of me getting baptized, and it was my last time going to this Pentecostal church. It's like, I'm going to get rebaptized in a new church and I'm going to feel it. God, I was like, God, this is it. I was like, I'm losing my faith. Please help me out. Please give me the Spirit. And I did the baptism, and then I left that church, never went back. That was my last day in church.
Your last day in church ever?
Yep.
Getting baptized? Oh my gosh.
And that's something. So people can't say that I didn't try.
No.
I tried. I just lost faith. It's over. Like, what are you going to do? You know?
I heard someone say recently, and I feel like I've heard it a couple of times, you didn't lose faith, you came to the end of faith. And I really liked that. Like,
right. That's a better way to say it.
I really liked that, because I always say I lost my faith, but I'm like, no, I just came to the end of it. And I like that a lot. So anyways, okay, Tim.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about it as a graduation too. I think that helps a little bit.
I like that.
Graduate
too.
to the next level of rationality or humanity.
I love that.
I'll keep mine real quick because I know we're short on time, but I would like to say that just like Jesus was my savior for 40 some years, my kids were my real savior. My story began, I was a Bible college grad, went to Bob Jones University and Lancaster Bible College and New Tribes Mission with the goal of being a Bible translator in a jungle environment. And just doing the Christian thing, raising kids, singing the songs, doing devotions with them, teaching them all the Bible songs. And one night we're singing Joshua Fought the Battle of Jericho, which is about, am I still there? Okay, after you all froze for a second. The Joshua Fought the Battle of Jericho song, if anyone doesn't know, is about basically the story of the conquest of Canaan, the beginning of it. And I'm realizing it was a fun kid song. It's just silly, but realizing that eventually I'm going to have to fill in the gaps of, okay, there's genocide, land theft, slavery, child bride, genital mutilation that's coming. I'm going to have to fill these gaps in for the kids soon. And it was the first time in my life that I actually cringed horrifically inside, like, oh my gosh, can I teach this to my kids? And it began a weird 3-year journey that I would have never, ever in that time frame, at least not in the first 95% 100%, I wouldn't have said it would have ended up in atheism. I would have said that's pretty crazy or stupid. There's got to be a reason. There's something rather than nothing. And I was fully convinced that I was clarifying my faith and getting not necessarily more of an apologist perspective, but just figuring things out. And like you all said so well, like eventually it's just gone. I like to describe it as like a bunch of dominoes that are set up, but your first questions are like you're a mile away from them. And as you ask each question, you start taking these micro steps, and it takes a while. And eventually you just like do one more step, and you little you just kick the dominoes and they just fall. And I was about 4 years ago, almost exactly. I was just sitting in my computer, and all of a sudden it's like, I don't think this is real. And that was it. I was done.
Yeah.
Wow.
All in an hour.
I had it wasn't like my deconversion moment, but I had a moment where I was reading the Bible to my two, we have 3 boys, but I had 2 at the time. And I was like, I'm going to read them the Bible. And I was reading, I think it was like in 1st and 2nd Kings. You guys might know the exact scripture, but it was where the woman, they were like, well, we'll eat your son tonight or something. And then tomorrow we'll eat your son. And I was like, I started reading ahead, and I was like, oh my God, I cannot read a story to my 2 little boys about a mother eating her son. And that was like such a moment of like, I was wrestling with that. And I closed the book and I was like, okay, it's time to go to bed. And the next day I remember telling my mom, like, I just read this story in the Bible, and it was about a mother eating her child. And I couldn't read this to the boys. And like, what's wrong? Like, I was so conflicted about it. And that was like one of those moments that just stuck with me. And anyways, it was, like how I couldn't reconcile it. And I thought I could read the entire Bible to my children, and I couldn't. It was so weird.
There's a lot of stuff like that too. Like a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to some of the questions are coming.
Like
but
judges is be rough.
Yeah. What's on your bedstand, buddy? Oh. But I want to thank you guys for coming on and telling all of your stories. Neil, I totally did not know about the baptism part.
It's true.
That just cracks me up, but also, whoa.
No, it is funny. Like I legitimately was trying to try. Like I was like, maybe because you're always told faith is about like you have to meet him halfway, right? So, and then I just remember thinking, I don't think this is true. I just don't think it's true. Like it's that simple.
Grasping at the last bit. You're just kind of doing whatever you can to hold on to it. So, yeah.
But it's once you admit it, it's like it all makes sense finally as to why.
Yes.
Like, oh, you fight it, and then you're like, why am I fighting this? This is wonderful. This is freedom. I'm free at last.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Finally, true freedom. So.
All right. Well, in the spirit of Mythmas and having true gnosis, we're going to debunk another Christian myth, or sorry, Christmas myth, and have our next guest come on. So thank you guys.
Thanks
for having me
so much.
Have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you.
Good seeing everybody.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Myth 3. Christmas or is not an offensive slam for Jesus. Christmas isn't a slam against Jesus, the Christian Messiah. Far from it. The word Christ in Greek is written Kyriota signatal. The first letter is X or Chi. Chi is also written as an X in the Roman alphabet, rather than an offensive abbreviation for Christmas.
Huh. Think the more you
That's
know.
the truth. Ain't it the truth?
So now we are joined by the Queen of the Sea, Stephanie Helms. Nirvadia, you were on yesterday with David of Deep Drink, so welcome back. And Liz, you were a guest on Paulogia's channel when I started my journey, and you talked about purity culture and the interplay of religion and sexuality. So that was a great listen, and thank you all for what you contribute to the skeptic community. Look forward to hearing about your guys' stories and what you've been up to in the skeptic space. And yeah, so off you go.
Hello,
we go.
everyone. Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Good. Well, I met
Stacy,
Nirvana.
you should have told that guy, what was his name, Jared or something on.
Yes, Jared.
You should have told that guy that. Okay, which of my two kids should I eat first?
Yeah.
Should have asked him that. I have a more foundational problem here. I'd like to know which one of my kids you'd recommend I eat. And by the way, if you have any good recipes,
Yes.
Go the younger one. It's more tender.
Oh yeah, he's the feistier one too. Yeah, for those who don't know what we are referring to, I was on with Dave Warnock on his show Dying Out Loud on Tuesday, and we had a very interesting caller named Jared, so who ended up calling back the next night. And
best pre-sup counter argumentation I have heard since Shannon Q went at Darth Dawkins, because you both did the thing. You laughed.
I just could not laugh.
It was just so stupid.
Yeah.
Well, the ontological systemological, and do you know the modus ponus? And it's like,
I didn't know
I don't know.
what the frick he was talking about.
I know ride the pony, but modus ponus, I'm not really sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was very entertaining. So
sorry.
No, that's okay. I've never done a stream with you, so it's nice to officially meet you. So I feel like I see you everywhere.
Lovely to meet you as well.
Yes. And Nirvadia, I met you yesterday. It's great to see you again. Thank you for coming on and getting your calendar figured out. And Liz, it's wonderful.
But not my watch. I came an hour early.
You'll get it figured out eventually.
I just came home from holiday like a couple of days ago, so I'm just going to blame it on holiday and also the fact I don't exist. So
okay. And Liz, hi. I've never had the pleasure of meeting you, but it's great to meet you. And
yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for all of you taking your time to be here for this fundraiser. So if you could all just kind of go around and introduce yourself, that would be awesome. And like I said, I know a bit about some of you, but not all of you. But Stephanie, could you start with you and kind of like what you do in this community? Because you're sort of everywhere. Which is amazing.
Well, it's the rhyme of the ancient mariner. I'm an old sailmaker and sailor who plies her craft in Maine and all over the place. I have a YouTube channel, Steffi Kath. I talk about sailing. I talk about trans issues. I talk about like the intersection between religion and social action, and why the two sometimes mingle well and sometimes where they mingle poorly.
Mm-hmm.
I focus on things that actually affect people in the real world, more than trying to discern the composition of the angels' chorus line before they dance on the heads of pins. I find that bores me to tears, but that's kind of me.
Yeah.
I yell a lot.
You yell a lot, okay. But people probably listen, so
sometimes
it's worth it. Yeah, awesome.
Unfortunately, they yell back, which is good. I like that. It's okay. I don't mind that.
Yeah. Awesome. And Liz, and what about you?
Sorry.
Sorry, I asked you right as you were taking a drink.
I guess I'm also known as Godless Liz on Twitter. I call it.
Oh, yes. Oh, I know you.
Yet. Yeah.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
I follow you.
Oh, yeah. So.
Oh, that's so exciting.
I guess
hi.
I guess I started my venture as Godless Liz because I realized I had a lot to say about religion, and I need to get those thoughts out there somewhere. And so I just started tweeting my thoughts. And eventually it became this thing where I was getting a lot of engagement, and we were having great conversations, and I was finally meeting my people. And that felt fantastic, because as anybody knows, whether you are atheist or just non-religious or just deconstructing, it can be hard to find other people that want to have these conversations or are also in the same boat. And so it was great. I found that tribe on Twitter. And so that had two people asking me to be on wonderful things like this. And and so, but it's weird, because yes, I kind of see myself as an activist in the sense that I'm just trying to get people to think about these things more. I want to leave the world a saner, more rational place.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's my part in this, is that I'm just trying to, be part of that conversation, for lack of a better way of putting it. Yeah. For anyone who's deconstructing or doubting privately or whatever, thinking about these beliefs that a lot of people are indoctrinated with, that you know, can be harmful to both individuals and society.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that is really cool, because I like a lot of your tweets. So that's awesome. It's fairly nice to meet you. And Nervadia, I know that you were here yesterday and introduced yourself, but there's probably a new audience here today too. So if you don't mind. Yes.
Hello, for people who don't know me. My name is Nervadia. My real name is Mero, or Meredith. Or Meredith's my real name. Mero is my nickname. So I do a little bit of atheism, but I seem to be sliding more towards the science communication and advocacy things, part of the world. So my latest video was a smallpox video, which, please, if you guys haven't seen it, go see it. It took me about a month and a half to make. It's got like 40 something citations. I did a lot of reading, a lot of research, and it's one of the lowest performing videos that I've done. So if anyone could go and look up Nervadia and smallpox, that'd be awesome. Probably my biggest, most proud thing was when I went after the Illuminati before it was cool. She did a video on did a video on BID or BIID, and I might be able to talk about it if we have enough time at the after we go through it. I do kind of want to have a quick talk about it, because it's a very unknown and very controversial condition that I just want to get some more scientific based, less emotionally charged information out there, that because a lot of people hate people who have this condition. So I do want to talk a little bit about that if we have enough time at the end.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think we can do that.
I think we can. If you wanted to touch on that right now, you're more than welcome to, seeing as you've already brought it up. So we might as well. All right.
So about 3 years ago, Illuminati did a video on BIID, which stands for Body Integrity Identities Disorder. And that term is still acceptable in the BIID/BID community, but younger people are more likely to call it BID, which is Body Integrity Dysphoria. And what it is, at least and I just want to be very, very gentle, because I understand this is incredibly controversial condition. It is a condition where it's a neurological condition where a person has an overwhelming desire to have a form of disability. We don't know what causes it, especially because there's lots of different variants, including deafness, blindness, paralysis, but the most common one tends to be amputation. And the studies that they've shown is that it's a neurological disorder. So in your brain, about here-ish, is something called your parietal lobe. That is the part of your brain that processes sensory input, and it's also part of the brain that has the homunculus, or the part of your body that it's like the map of your body. So, you know, you've got 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 knees, whatever. That's, and you know, like, so if I touch here, my brain, the parietal lobe goes, oh, I've just touched my shoulder. In people with BIID or BID, they have either fewer connections with the area, and so what they have is they, rather than they look down and go, oh, that's my arm, they look down and go, what is this? It's a parasite. It's an alien thing. Causes an extreme amount of dysphoria, to the point of where people have wanted to get rid of this part of their body so much that they have killed themselves trying to amputate. Oh. It's a very, very severe disorder. And I understand that, you know, a lot of people go, oh my God, why would you want to become disabled? Which is a totally understandable thing. But a lot of people do relate it to the way trans people have gender dysphoria. So it's just I saw that response, Stephanie. But yeah, it's because it's a neurological disorder in the brain. And I actually have a couple of people on Discord telling me about, you know, they would wake up and they would want to vomit because they could see. Like, it causes them severe dysphoria. And it's all neurological. It's all neurological. So it is a horrendous disorder. But as I was saying, it's very difficult to try and tread that line, because there is a lot of people, as I said, feel really like taken back. It's a shocking thing. So anyway, but that's my thing. The reason why I'm very passionate about this is because a lot of people with BID, because it's a very unknown condition, get a lot of hate, death threats if they come out. They get basically, like, it's very, 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 like, it's just horrendous, the hatred these people have, and it's not their fault.
How common is this?
We don't know. It is so rare. Like, they're guessing roughly about 10,000 people, but we don't know because nobody talks about it. There's a condition that's very similar called Ozols syndrome. And what that is like somebody has some sort of like a stroke or something in the parietal lobe, and it interrupts the connection between the brain and the sensory input of a person's arm or leg or whatever. And they do not recognize that their arm is or leg is their own. And so there's a story I read online of this kid who had a stroke. No, he had a brain hemorrhage in hospital, and he went to get up and he fell out of bed because he was like, someone's leg is on me, and he couldn't control his leg because he didn't recognize it as his own. So it's very, 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 very rare. And the studies that they've done, where they've done neurological connections, but where they've gone, here's if they looked at the connections between the leg, and the brain, and they touch the part of the leg, for example. I'm just using leg as an example, but they touch part of the leg that to be removed, and the parietal lobe doesn't light up or has less lighting up. It's very, very interesting disorder. So if you want more information, go and see my videos. Sorry, Stephanie.
I know I'm a mere sailmaker in the midst of two people who are either studying medicine or medical professionals or whatnot. But as a trans woman in the audience or in the room,
in the panel, yeah,
on the panel,
yeah.
I want to share a visceral reaction to that.
Sure.
Trans people throughout history have been treated as if we have a disorder rather than live a life. That is a different way of seeing being human. It is especially at this time when our lives are at physical, political risk to have to engage in discourse that seeks to remedicalize us, treat us as inverts, treat us as others, rather than accepting us for who we are. Because I'll tell you how I deconverted. I deconverted
Yes, please do.
a year after I received this Bible.
Oh, wow.
My dead name is there. And why did I do that? Because I couldn't believe that the loving God, whose gospel my dad and grandfather and brother-in-law preached, would have made such a terrible mistake. I was told I was impossible as a child. I was born in 1953. I was baptized on television in a display of interracial harmony in Boston, with a black child in me. Grew up in an interracial church that my grandfather founded. But here I was. Sitting in the other pews in my own life. So I think people need to be very, very careful. And this may not be an atheist theme, but it is a theme of what you do. This is what I meant when I said what you do in real life matters. Whether you're an atheist or a religious person, you need to be very, very careful to recognize, well, if we can medicalize this, then we can treat it.
And
if we can diagnose what makes somebody gay, what makes somebody trans, what makes somebody this, we can treat it because it's bad. And we want to fix you. And that was my upbringing. And the trauma that causes, the difficulties that causes throughout life. I mean, does every trans kid have to wait 44 years before they figure it out?
No, they shouldn't
That's
have
what
to.
we're hoping doesn't have to happen anymore.
Thank
you for sharing that, Steph. Thank you so much.
Stephanie, I'm sorry if my words were ill considered. I apologize for that.
No, I don't think they're ill-considered. I think it's definitely worth having these conversations, because if you don't have these conversations, you don't realize the impact. It's really easy for people who've never really had to deal with these issues to just sort of say, look, when I came up, people just basically said, well, that's weird. That's kind of strange, but okay, that's great. But all of a sudden it's a big deal. But then again, this was around 1998 or so, right? But when I was a kid, no, the treatment was, convulsive shock therapy, electroconvulsive shock therapy for kids. And people talk about, well, kids can't make these decisions. Well, what about the kids? What about the kids that know? What about the kids that know and you're going to deny them treatment? You're gonna, well, somebody might make a decision that they'll regret later. If somebody had offered me and my parents an avenue to let me be me when I was the first time I expressed who I was at 4, if somebody had offered me and my parents a path, I think everybody, everyone would have been better off. I mean, I had to wait until my sister, who I shared all of this shit with throughout my life, I had to wait till my sister was at my bedside after waking up from GRS to say, "Hi, sis." When I was 49. So think about that.
Sorry.
No worries.
So
yeah.
Like I said, I yell a lot.
It sounds like you have a lot of good reasons to be yelling, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't always go over very well, and I hope I didn't derail the conversation. There's more to do, I think, and we can. I also laugh a lot, which is good.
Liz, you're on Twitter. You must see a lot of yelling on Twitter. How does that go? How has your interactions been?
When you're first dealing with trolls, you have to figure out what's the best way to deal with this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most of us, probably go through this. Well, my instinct says to leave them and just block them because they're time wasters and they just live to, try to piss people off, right?
Yeah.
And there are times where somebody's not necessarily being a troll, they're just being argumentative or contrarian or just has a, difference of opinion. Those aren't people I want, or those people are the ones I might engage. And that can be a back and forth where we might actually learn from each other, or somebody else who reading the thread might come away going, oh, that's a perspective I hadn't considered before, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
But the ones who just show up and instantly insult you or say something completely asinine and irrelevant, or say something that's clearly intentionally misconstruing what you wrote, those are the people who just get out,
Yeah.
Done. There's no reason with crazy sociopaths. And so, but as far as like yelling, I mean, metaphorically, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen too often. I think there are times where sometimes I will reply to people with more snark than I did or wanted to.
Yes.
Where it's like, it's so tempting to just be like, it's like there's something about their replies that bring out the sarcastic, I'm not calling them. Yeah, I'm not calling them the soul, but you can tell by what I wrote and the tone that I think they are.
Yeah. But have you have you made good connections with people on Twitter at all?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Lots of great people, lots of wonderful, amazing people. A lot of them are blue dots and red towns or red states. And but even when you're not, even when you're in, a blue city or whatever, sometimes it can still be hard to just find other people who, even if they're not religious, they don't want to talk about it. A lot of people are what's called post-religious, right? Where they've dealt with, they've processed their thoughts and feelings on the matter and just don't feel like talking about it anymore. There's those types too, right? And so I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I still have a lot to say.
Yes. How recent are you out of your deconstruction or deconversion?
Well, my story is a little unique, I guess, in the sense that I feel like a lot of people who end up outspoken atheistically, who are quick to, criticize religion or just share their thoughts on it, tend to come from either no religious background, so they were raised atheist, and they just are like, what? People believe these crazy things? Like what? You know? Or they came from extreme fundamentalist cult-like groups.
Right.
And I'm somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
I was not raised in a church. I wasn't heavily involved in religion at all, but I was raised by a mom who was.
Oh,
and so she raised me to believe in God. She is Christian. She's actually from Ethiopia, biracial. My dad is white and my mom is black. And so, I mean, that's a whole other conversation. I'm writing a memoir about that stuff. But anyway, so she was raised in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church in her country. And so I was born and raised here. And so I got little bits of that in how she raised me. But there was no Ethiopian church nearby for me to go to. And then near one was like this Catholic church, which is like the closest to her religion, of course.
Yeah.
And experiences of sometimes reluctantly going to the Catholic Church with her and being bored silly and just, you know, making goofy faces because I was there. But I wasn't raised in that, you know, heavily involved in church. I was raised in that bubble. I still had a great public school education with comprehensive sex education, things like that. Like I wasn't raised with that, you know, influence heavily. You know what I'm saying? I'm repeating myself now. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But yeah, and so somewhere in the middle there. But I still, by the time I was in my early 20s, I was questioning a lot of these things. And by the time I was in my mid to late teens, I'd started connecting that all the worst human rights abuses in history often were progress was either halted or opposed by religious groups. And once I made that connection, like women's rights, slavery, race, you name it, teaching of evolution schools, you name it, there was always religion behind the people who were trying to stop our progress. And that connection eventually led, by my early 20s, I realized I was an atheist. And so and I was like, I've got shit to say and it's gonna go somewhere. So I'm going to be
posting it.
Hey, look, you know, if you want to talk about sexuality in the brain, you know, maybe the three of us could get together and have a little.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That because I
that'd
think
be cool.
That'd be fun, actually.
Yeah,
you know,
that'd be
there's
awesome.
an awful lot of that stuff that you know, obviously, if you do take the humanist view and a materialist view, you know, maybe you could get Shannon to jump in on the thing too.
That would be awesome. Wow.
That'd be a really good show. I think
That'd
she'd
be awesome.
be into it. So yeah. Let's stay in
again-
touch. I might check my channel. All my socials are there and all that stuff. And yeah, let's stay in touch for sure.
Yeah, that would be amazing because. All right, sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Stephanie's channel, she will not back down. When her voice is going, you are listening, all right? And if you guys are on together with her, there ain't no stopping you. So that'd be awesome. And so I want to thank you guys. And Liz, thank you for being a very consistent and fun voice on Twitter.
So great to meet you, Liz.
X. Yeah, it's great to
Thank
actually
you.
see you.
Yeah, it's to you guys too.
Great to
Instead
meet,
of just a
great to meet you
cartoon,
both.
right?
I think Liz, we ran into each other on Neil's channel at one point in time.
Yes, I remember.
And Nirvadia, thank you for coming back and giving us that incredible education about that condition. I had no clue. And now I'm completely fascinated. And I have to go back to your channel and I have to like everything and watch it all. So my workday is going to be so busy. Screw all the stuff that's live.
Ignore that. It's more important that no, thank you everyone for listening and at least having an open mind about this condition. It's I am very passionate about it. I don't have it myself, just letting everyone know, and I am also not an expert, but then again, even the experts don't know what they're talking about with this condition. It's so under-researched. It's a very fascinating disorder. If anybody wants to go and talk to people who actually have BID, I have a couple of people on my Discord server who are happy to answer any questions. So shill for my Discord as well.
What is your Discord, by the way? Is it easy to communicate here?
It's Nevadia. If you go onto my channel, there's a link to the So yeah, go and check out. Awesome. It's in every should be in every description box at the end.
Awesome. All right, last call. Anything else you guys want to plug before we get you rolling?
I think we're good.
Subscribe to Nitty's channel.
Subscribe. There we go.
Channel.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Come on now. Let's go. Let's go.
We all
Let's
have
go.
stuff.
Yeah,
we've all got
the more we
stuff.
elevate each other, the further we reach, right? So
there you go. We're all here for the same reasons, right? So
thank you so much, Stephanie, Liz, Nervadia. We'll see you
for having
around.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Oh, Stacey, don't you leave yet.
I'm not.
Okay, there we go. You've been great talking with everyone, and it's good to have you on. I'm trying to always catch you and your mom.
You know, I think this is the first you and I have been on screen together. So this is.
It's true. It's true. I've been in your chat.
I know. I mean, I obviously I know you, but it does. Yeah, it's awesome to talk to you. So yeah.
What do you have going on next?
Nothing. I'm going to continue watching, but I have nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Actually, I'm watching Neil's show. I'm going to watch Neil's show tonight because our guest that we had a couple weeks ago, Pete, he's doing his deconversion story tonight on Neil's show, and then I'm going to join the after party. So that's what I'm doing this evening.
All right.
So if you want to come hang out with me, I'll be in the after party later. So.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and helping out.
No problem.
All right, we're gonna debunk one more Christmas myth here and bring on our next host and guest.
Myth 5. Can U.S. students sing religious carols in public schools? This idea is false, at least for now. As long as secular songs are included in a school holiday concert's repertoire, Christmas carols may also be sung. As of now, however, there's been no ruling by the Supreme Court, and no constitutional amendments banning this practice. Some schools do have bans.
At this time, station KID-TV brings you the special event of the year, a first in television history. At this very moment, KID-TV has standing by a television crew at Santa Claus Workshop. And in just a few seconds, our special correspondent, Andy Henderson, will bring you a person-to-person interview with Santa Claus himself direct from the North Pole, where at the moment, the temperature is 91 degrees below zero. And now KID-TV takes you via Telstar, Andy Henderson at the North Pole.
Hi, kids. This is Andy Henderson at the North Pole. Woo, it's cold up here. From this spot, there's only one direction you can go, and that's south. Living up here is pretty rough. I don't see how Santa stands it. Since we've been here, we've eaten nothing but frozen food. At least that's the way it is by the time we get it. And now, let's take a look-see into Santa's workshop.
Okay. We just love weird special announcements, huh? It's a wonderful time of the year. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's Mythmas, and here we are joined by Eric of Skeptics and Scoundrels,
Hello.
Dr. David Kyle Johnson, and Tanner Edis. So I am not familiar with you two gents, so can you give me a lowdown? Give me a quick description. What are you about? Where can we find you? You start, David.
Oh, okay. First of all, I go by Kyle. My name is David Kyle Johnson. I'm a professor of philosophy at King's College in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I'm known for my courses at the Great Courses, I have a course on metaphysics, a course on introducing philosophy called The Big Questions of Philosophy. And I do a lot of pop culture and philosophy work. So I have a course with great courses called Sci-Fi, Science Fiction as Philosophy. And also, given that intro, I am obligated to mention that I also have a book called The Myth That Stole Christmas. It's about 7 myths about Christmas, how it kind of makes the holiday worse, how we can take it back. So I can talk all about Santa Claus and the history of Santa Claus and why it's bad to lie to your children about Santa Claus and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's me.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. I'm Tanner Redis. I teach physics actually at Truman State University. But most of my research in the last 20 years has actually been in the history and philosophy of science. So I'm particularly interested in, say, paranormal and supernatural claims and how they don't fit very well with what we understand about the universe given modern science. So I do a lot of science and religion stuff that might be interesting.
Yeah, I should mention, like, that's one of the reasons that they put Tanner and I together is I teach critical thinking classes. I do a lot of skepticism, teaching like difference between science and pseudoscience, how to detect pseudoscience. And I actually reviewed one of Tanner's books at one point. We've been on before talking about that. And so Tanner and I have a lot in common in terms of like science and religion and that kind of stuff.
So so when James Randi was on this earth, he cloned himself, but then split in half and made you guys? Is that what happened?
That would be very flattering if that was the case. I actually do a little bit of magic in class occasionally to make certain, to help demonstrate certain lessons in critical thinking, like the fact that you can't explain something is not a good reason to invoke the supernatural or magical powers. So very, very minor. I dabble in it just a smidge, but.
I'm absolutely terrible at magic. For one of the courses I teach, I wanted to learn a magic trick to impress students, but I practiced and practiced and practiced. The results were a complete flop.
What you need to do, Tanner, is just get a rig deck. Get like a stripper deck where one end is larger than the other, and you can pull cards out very easily. Or get like they have ones that are actually impressed or embossed. So if you reverse one card, you can tap it. It's real easy to cut to the card. Like those are almost foolproof, and the kids almost never know what's going. Or get a mark deck. Like you could buy them on eBay. Or I'm sorry, on Amazon or something, and get like a mark deck, and you just look at the back of the card and see what card is super
If there's a way to screw it up, I will. I mean, traditionally, say for example, in teaching physics courses, you're supposed to do lots of demonstrations and things like that. I've completely stopped doing them because I find ways to screw them up. I'm just totally clumsy. That's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, you can't. If you're clumsy, you can't. Yeah, even a stripper deck won't help you.
All right. Well, we need to welcome our third additional guest with Eric, our additional host. Cease to Know. Hello.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Sorry for being late. Good to see you. Good to see everybody.
Yeah. So you also get to tell us a little bit about yourself, and I am going to hide.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I run a channel called Axioms on Trial, where we discuss philosophy, science, religion, politics, things of nature. I am completing my master's degree in philosophy. I am an agnostic atheist. I regularly run my channel. I do different conversations on TikTok where I discuss with theists and people of different backgrounds. Yeah, I love these types of conversations. So thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Okay, great. And I'll just go do a really quick introduction. Will be your host for the next hour. My name is Eric. I run a small YouTube channel called Skeptics and Scoundrels. I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and deconverted about 15 years ago. And about a year ago, decided, hey, I want to kind of express my voice and engage more with the community. And in my years of my deconversion, my deconstruction, my interest in science and philosophy and logic have drastically increased because it helps me understand my origin, why my family was duped into a Christian cult, why my friends that I grew up with were also duped into a Christian cult, and why I was duped in a Christian cult from my birth up to about my mid-20s. So my interest in philosophy is definitely that of a layman. I'm a dabbler, but as my enter my 40s. I'm looking to, expand more. I'm considering going back to college, getting a second degree in philosophy, maybe a bachelor's or a master's. And being here with you intellectual powerhouses, I mean, we have 2 doctors in the room. We have a cease to know. You're going after your PhD or your master's in philosophy. This is an exciting opportunity for me to actually talk to you and get to know you a little bit better and get your insights and such. So Nidhi, we already went through the introductions with Nidhi. I'm just going to go kind of clockwise around our room here. Dr. Edis, you have a PhD in theoretical physics. You actually actively teach as a professor, and you mentioned that you no longer do active physical examples in class because they're always kind of easy to goof up.
The way I describe it is that I'm a theorist, not an experimentalist. So that's my excuse for everything.
There you go. That's a good way to kind of give yourself an out. Practical application. I like talking about it and describing it. And yeah, I'm recalling one of those videos of a physics professor in class having a big iron ball on a chain and holding it up to his throat, and then he lets go of it, lets it swing across the room, and then swing back. And you understand the physics there, it's going to lose a little bit of that power through friction, air getting in the way, just sucking up that energy little by little, just enough so that on the return trip, it's not going to hit him at all. Unless he accidentally gives it a little extra energy by pulling it towards him first, and then it could really go wrong.
If I were to try and do that, I would actually stumble forward just as it came forward to me.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That only works as long as you stand completely still.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you have to perfectly release that ball with no added energy and stay completely still, or else it's like a hairline of a margin of error there. But no, I can completely appreciate that, especially in front of an audience. Anything can go wrong, and then you got to explain to them what happened. And now it's like, okay, the whole thing just kind of backfired, and I can totally appreciate what you said there.
Sometimes I can recover. I mean, a couple of the mistakes my students most remember are things like this. I occasionally will jump up on a table to demonstrate the concept of potential energy. 2 times I've done this, and 2 times I've jumped up on the desk to tell my students about this, and I heard this big ripping sound. Basically, my jeans gave way in the butt area, and of course now students completely remember that. They don't remember anything about potential energy, but they remember that I exposed myself in front of the class.
Oh man! Hopefully that was a little bit before smartphones became a super common thing, and everyone's got their phones out. Like, look what happened to my professor today.
I think so. I've done that for the last 10 years. So.
We appreciate you putting yourself out there and risking those things for the sake of educating others. I think that's very commendable. So, Dr. Edis, you have you're known for you teaching physics at Truman State University. You have I guess you have a reputation for skeptical inquiry into the religious and paranormal claims that we see in our world today. And that's something that's really interesting to me. I coming from a Christian religion, demons, spiritual influences on the world, these supernatural explanations for things that actually we have not eliminated all natural explanations for. And being in a religion like that, it's very easy to dismiss perfectly natural explanations going, the probability of that is so low. I'm going to jump to the supernatural now as my explanation, as if that's some type of justification. Can you tell us a little bit around your interest in doing that, kind of what motivated you into shifting from theoretical physics into, taking science and tackling these irrational paranormal religious claims in our world today?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've always had an interest in it. I spent almost half my time while I was in graduate school, instead of doing physics, which I was supposed to be doing, I spent a lot of time in the library boning up on philosophy books. So when it came to my getting a job at a liberal arts university, where they kind of encourage interdisciplinary work, I kind of took it as an excuse to say, oh, what the hell, I'll do whatever the damn well I want. And it turns out that messing around with philosophy of science is one of the things I kind of wanted. But if you go back even further, my motivation for getting involved with this is probably precisely the opposite of yours. You come from a religious background, you said. My sort of family background is completely opposite. There are very few religious people among my relatives. And so I grew up in an environment where it was pretty much taken for granted that religion is just something that other people did. And I was sort of thoroughly grew up in an environment where science was a thing. You wanted to learn about what was going on, you picked up an encyclopedia, pre-internet days, of course.
Yep.
And science books, and they admitted that, hey, we didn't know a lot of stuff, but okay, this is what we do know, we think. So I kind of got used to that way of thinking, and but of course, you pretty soon discover that just from the friends you play around with in school and everything like that, that other kids have very, very different ideas about how the universe works and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always kind of was a little bit interested in, okay, what the hell is going on over here? Why am I all that different in my understanding of things than other people? It's always fascinated me, the human tendency to reach for supernatural agency as an explanation of things, because I'm rather unfamiliar with it from the circumstance I grew up with.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for those insights. And yeah, it's interesting that it doesn't really matter the origin of your perspective. I think kind of reality has a natural kind of gravitational pull on us all. I think all of us want to have a better, more accurate understanding of the world around us, and the processes and the conclusions we come through can kind of be all over the place. But I think that core desire to get to the core, the truth of the matter on various mysteries we see in life, various phenomena we see in nature, I think that core drive to discover the truth is there for almost all of us. But the way we get there is also very important, and having that accurate understanding and kind of slapping down bad processes because we know they lead to bad conclusions. So yeah, I appreciate all those efforts you're doing there. So yeah, thank you for those insights. We'll go ahead and move on down to Dr. David Kyle Johnson. And you said you wanted to be referred to as Kyle.
Kyle, yeah, go by my middle name.
Dr. Kyle. So Dr. Kyle, I looked a little bit into your background as well. You have a PhD in philosophy. You too are a professor. You are at King's College, professor of philosophy, if that information's still accurate.
That's correct. I'm still there. I still got a job.
Awesome. Yeah. You professors, once you get a job, it's pretty hard to lose it, from what I understand.
Be careful what you say, but
yeah. I've heard stories of certain professors pushing the envelope when it comes to that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's kind of a rabbit hole. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you do, why you got into this, kind of where you come from, and what's your motivations in what you're doing today. And after you mentioned that, I want to talk about one of your books because it really kind of piqued my interest. Yeah.
Yeah. So I should mention right off, when Wes invited me, he told me a half hour. I could go a little over, but about 20 more minutes is about what I have before I have to.
Sure. I think the way it's going to work is I think this hour is cut up in half. So probably in about 10 to 12 to maybe 15 minutes, we're going to be going into the next phase, and that'll be this panel will be finished at that point. So yeah.
So I'm like you. I came from a pretty religious background, very conservative, evangelical, Southern denomination called Nazarenes. My undergrad degree is in religion and philosophy. I actually originally was going to be a preacher and decided to be a professor. When I took my first philosophy class just started me on that journey. Philosophy over about a decade basically weaned away my religious beliefs until I was a nominal theist. When I was hired at King's College, and then further study once I got to King's converted me. I don't know if that's the right word, but I realized that theism was not a rational position to hold.
Right.
I've actually published on this if you want to actually see the details of step by step what happened. But it specifically was skepticism and involving in the supernatural. I was assigned to teach a critical thinking course when I got to King's, and some of the professors at King's had published a book on critical thinking, so I taught that for a while. Some of my students, came to me with some weird claims I hadn't investigated, and I started teaching out of this book by Ted Schick and Louis Vaughn called "How to Think About Weird Things." I went to it because it debunked 9/11 conspiracies. I was exposed to this, and I wasn't quite sure what to think about it, so I did a little research. Came across this section in Schick's book on 9/11. And it was just magnificent. The clarity of thought and everything about how it just laid things out was so wonderful. So I started teaching out of this Weird Things book, and I've been teaching out of it ever since. I've taught out of it maybe 15 years now. I've been through multiple editions, and I've done my own research on this and become more familiar with it. And so ironically, I got my PhD in philosophy, and I could do predicate calculus, but I really didn't have the critical thinking chops until I started teaching critical thinking to freshmen, right? And got into the book and started doing my own research on this. And then I really dove down into it. and then that exposed me to philosophy of science and a little bit more. I'd taken a philosophy of science course as a PhD student, but it was cursory to compared to what I understand now, especially kind of with the applied epistemology of weird things. And so I still publish on philosophy of religion. I do a lot of stuff on the problem of evil and the epistemology of religious belief. Is it rational to believe in miracles? I have papers on all those. I actually have a paper on ghosts, angels, and demons. It's specifically about whether belief in such things can be rational, and under what conditions it would be rational to believe in such things. So that's kind of what I currently work on now. My current project is I'm trying to write basically a kind of like how to think like a scientist book. The intention is that for some of the professors here at King's to use it in their introduction to science course. Essentially, we have kind of like a scientific thinking course that all students have to take, and the goal is for them to use it there. So that's what I'm like working on there, and that's kind of where my journey went. And philosophy is what got me from that really conservative upbringing to where I am now.
Yeah, I appreciate that, where your core starting point was an interest in philosophy, but then it branched out into the things and your studies in that you mentioned expose other weaknesses or other areas where you could have strengthened your skill set, as you mentioned, with like critical thinking. I kind of liken it to, I don't know if anybody here plays Dungeons and Dragons. It's kind of like having a character that has really high intelligence but low wisdom.
Yes, very much so.
The kind of lopsidedness that can cause in that, and we see that a lot today. I mean, like there are. I mean, PhD holders. You can get a PhD but still make very foolish statements, very foolish decisions. We have PhD folks who deny the moon landing or advocate for a flat Earth, and just because you have the knowledge, the intelligence behind it, you aren't necessarily applying it effectively. And I really appreciate the need for critical thinking in line with all the other stuff that you've learned. And really quick, I know your time is limited, and I don't want to deny Ceasto his fair share. You have an audiobook that I noticed, and this really poked out to me. Sci-fi. PHI, it's a little pun on words or play on words there. I really appreciate it. Sci-fi, fiction as philosophy. And it's my understanding this audiobook talks about pop culture sci-fi and how it explores philosophy and other philosophical terms.
So
really quick, just I like that because I'm a huge Star Trek fan, especially Next Generation, where it explores more of the ethical, scientific, ethical, social, and philosophical dilemmas. Rick and Morty, they draw a lot on like philosophical concepts in order to generate ideas for their episodes. Black Mirror also, that's kind of my jam. So I'm going to get that audiobook and listen to it, as I just discovered it today. But tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so what you're referring to is a course I have for the great courses called Sci-Fi, PHI, Science Fiction as Philosophy. The idea behind the course, which is, again, exists as an audiobook. You can buy it on Audible. I think a lot of people get it now. But there is like a video version that has lots of cool visuals and stuff. Like if you see my TARDIS and stuff behind me, you should see the course. It is very, very fun. The idea is that pieces of science fiction are doing philosophy. So that's why it's called science fiction as philosophy. The idea is that pieces of science fiction are doing philosophy. They're making arguments. They're intentionally asking and trying to answer philosophical questions. And so it's an exploration of that. It's 24 lectures, 24 chapters, 30 minutes a piece. At the end of each lecture, I ask you to go and watch another piece of science fiction, whether it be a movie or an episode of a science fiction show. And then, we explore philosophically that piece of media. Just to be clear, it's not required that you go watch it. You could just listen to the whole thing because I explain what you need to know about each piece of pop culture, but each piece of media. But it kind of enhances your exploration if you do that. And so almost everything that you mentioned there is in there. There is a little bit about Rick and Morty. There's not a whole lecture on Rick and Morty. There is a lot of Star Trek TNG. There's an episode. There's a lecture on Black Mirror. I talk about Carl Sagan's Contact. I talk about Inception. I talk about all three Matrix movies. I argue that the Matrix sequels are a lot better than people give them credit for, largely because of their philosophical content. The last lecture is on 2001: A Space Odyssey, but I also talk about The Handmaid's Tale. I talk about Starship Troopers. I talk about Doctor Who quite a bit. There's a lot of content there. But if you are interested in this kind of thing, like the sci-fi course is a good starting point. But I also have an audiobook about Black Mirror. I have an entire book called Black Mirror and Philosophy. Make sure to get the one that's by me, by Johnson. We dedicate a chapter to every episode up through Ashley 2, and then we have 6 chapters on the series as a whole. And that too is like, it's a physical book, but it's also, well, it's right. Here we go. It's a physical book.
Cool.
But it's also an audiobook as well. The chapter on Bandersnatch is a choose your own philosophical adventure chapter.
Oh, cool.
Where you have an intro and then it asks, what question are you more concerned with? And then you follow that question to the next section. There's 5 different endings to the chapter. For the audiobook for that chapter, we did 2, and we followed one path and then we followed another through the chapter for the audiobook. So, but I also have a book on the Orville, Seth MacFarlane's Star Trek. I have a book on the Orville in philosophy. William Irwin and I have a textbook called Introducing Philosophy Through Pop Culture. So I do a lot of work in this area, and a lot of it intersects with skepticism, where you'll see this in the sci-fi course. Like the 4th lecture chapter in sci-fi is on Carl Sagan's Contact, and it is specifically about the question of whether science and religion are compatible or whether they are incompatible. Nice. And I treat the movie as an argument that they are compatible. And I think that was Carl Sagan's position. And I argue that he is wrong, that they are actually not compatible in a lot of different ways. And I try to spell out exactly where the incompatibility is.
Nice. That sounds like a treasure trove of stuff that I would love to dig into, because that's, like I said, that's my jam. I love pop culture and sci-fi, and I love how it actually helps explain these not very old, but older concepts that we're actually forming our society around and forming our logic around. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you will love it. You should do I'll give you a reading list. You should do sci-fi, and then you should do the Black Mirror book. And if you have time, do the Orville book. I also, you shouldn't do this entire thing. I have a handbook with Pelgrave called the Pelgrave Handbook of Pop Culture as Philosophy. It is 96 chapters. It is all different authors. I've wrote a few. I've wrote about 8. And there are 5 categories. There's movies, films, comedians, graphic novels, and video games. And it treats each, elements of each, like, particular movies, particular films, particular games, particular comedians, as philosophy, or in the case of comedians, philosophers. And there are, chapters on a whole wide range of everything from the typical Doctor Who and Star Trek, right, to like there's a George Carlin chapter, right? There's a chapter on The Last of Us about the game. And it was written before the HBO series came out, that does this with all of it. And so look it up, Pelgrave Handbook of Pop Culture as Philosophy. You can see a whole list of the chapters. Look at what interests you. If there's something you can't get at your local library, email me, I'll give you a copy. But
cool. That sounds all great. I hate to cut you off. We're already cutting into Cicino's time. Thank you so much for that info dump. I'm going to definitely look into that. So cool. Thank you. Cicino, hi, to introduce you, thank you for joining us, even though I know it was a little inconvenient with your phone situation and stuff. Thank you for making the effort to be here.
Oh, of course.
So, Cicino, you're a YouTube content creator, co-host on a channel called Axioms on Trial, which covers a variety of topics from cults to gender studies, abortion, trans issues, meta-ethics, philosophy of time, and of course, religion. And you mentioned earlier that you're pursuing a master's in philosophy. So,
yes.
Please tell us why do you do what you do? What's motivating you, and what's your goals with your channel and your partnerships with your co-hosts?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll start by saying that my interest in philosophy is in my blood. My father was a philosophy professor. My brother is a physicist. So I grew up just kind of in a household of science and philosophy, and it really shaped my interest in this field. I think the first time I read Sartre, I was 15. I didn't understand a word of it, but my interest began very early on. And then, I was agnostic. I didn't really know what this whole religion thing was about. I went into it with an open mind, and in reading the Bible and parts of the Quran and Eastern religions, and watching debates and that sort of thing, I came out of that experience an atheist. Also recognizing the impacts of these beliefs in society and seeing the justifications people provide for these beliefs in society has led me to be very concerned about what can happen when your epistemology is lacking and when your critical thinking is lacking. And so I started this channel to talk about these issues. Sometimes we host debates, other times we just have conversations, or we break down clips from other channels, and things of that nature. Sorry, this is a completely different thing, but I just wanted to ask you, Dr. Kyle, is any of your books talk about Westworld at all?
There is a lecture, I believe, a little bit about, there's a lecture on Westworld in the sci-fi course. I think, if I remember correctly, there's also a chapter on it in the handbook as well.
I definitely will take a look at those things, especially for the Westworld and The Last of Us and Black Mirror. I'm definitely interested in reading those things. So
the chapter in the handbook about Black Mirror is wonderful. It is written by Chris Lay, who he and I co-wrote the Bandersnatch Choose Your Own Adventure chapter, and it is fantastic. If you want to check out that chapter in the handbook, but
as far as I guess the last thing I'll say is I'm active in the debate space on both on YouTube and on TikTok. And I'm always looking to find common ground with people who see the world differently than I do. But I definitely try to challenge ideas that I think are ultimately either irrational or potentially toxic in society. And right now I'm particularly interested in philosophy of physics. That is something that is really guiding my interest, and I'm trying to understand more about that as I move forward. So
I really appreciate that, Cease to Know, because it sounds like you're already well on the path that I'm sitting here considering. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm considering going back to university to get some type of degree in philosophy because I am very interested in these subjects. I also have a YouTube channel. So we have two PhDs here. They've made that journey and they've written multiple books and had a large impact on that. You're on your way. You're well on your way, and it's an inspiration to me at where I feel like I'm still at the starting line, and I'm like, I want to take that first step. I want to get out there and I want to do those things. So, so all three of you, thank you so much for your insights and this half an hour. Oh, Nitty. Uh-oh.
I just want to say, Cease to Know, you're on TikTok debating. I've watched Phil Talk. Danny.
Yes, it's
Phil
phenomenal.
Talk.
Danny's great.
Yeah, I mean, so do you obviously, bring a person on at a time then?
Sometimes it'll be a panel. Other times it will be one-on-one. Danny was actually on my YouTube channel a couple months ago. He's phenomenal. Anybody should look him up.
Yeah.
I think, from my perspective, is number one on that app. He really knows what he's doing.
So Danny's the only one I've seen through TikTok debating talks, really. Well, and there's this other young gentleman. I can't remember his name offhand. But usually, I mean, it could be real hit or miss for the quality of conversation that you get. Sure. Because it's TikTok, right? It's like you can get lots of bottom feeders. Yeah, sorry, but so congrats on your patience. I have to commend you for your patience
for sure. And I am trying to sort of weed out those situations because I much prefer to have challenging intellectual conversations with people that have a solid background and know the arguments, as opposed to just being like, well, God exists because the Bible says so, right? That's incredibly boring. Right. So, and sometimes you get those. That's why I do the YouTube channel, because I try to actually seek out specific individuals that I think I can have more productive conversations with. But, there's something to be said for the spontaneity of something like TikTok, where you don't really know where you're going to get, and you kind of have to think on the fly. I mean, I'm also a musician, and one of my first laws was improvisation. And that kind of translates into these kind of conversations at times, because I like being on sort of on my toes and on knowing exactly what to expect and who's going to come up and challenge me. So I enjoyed that as well.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. It's been so awesome for you guys. I just keep saying awesome. It's been great to have you guys come and support this fundraiser. Yeah, so glad to have you. Good luck out there. Thank you for your great contributions to education and debates in philosophy. So
thank you so much.
We'll see you around.
Kudos to Cease for being on TikTok. That really takes some bravery, and you're going where the people are. So that's good. I can't stomach it, but nice job.
Well, and thank you guys for having me on, and Dr. Kyle and Dr. Redis, you guys were some of my favorite guests that I've had on Axioms. So I appreciate that. And I would love to have you guys back at some point in the future. So if you guys
anytime, yeah, thanks.
Up to you. You know how to get hold of me.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, Eric. I'm going to run a really quick thing. Don't forget, everyone, that you can give to this wonderful channel and its cause to become a charity organization, a 501(c)(3). Just visit tinyurl.com/giftsh2023. Open your hearts, open your wallets for this giving season to broaden our cause and lift us all up as
plant that seed, let it grow.
Ooh, yes, the pebbles in the trees. All right, we'll run this and then bring on Unwoman. Hello.
Hello.
It's good to meet you.
Nice
Welcome.
to meet you too.
So you go by Unwoman, but
Yes.
also Erica? We're allowed to call you
yes.
Erica? Okay. So before the show, I decided to stalk you as well. And I went to your Spotify and I listened to a little bit of your latest album. And I really like when artists, blend genres and it sounds good. It's not just like a cluster of stuff happening, right? And I liked your song Actor.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was a good listen. And then I went further back. I went in the TARDIS of your catalog and I saw that you did a whole cover album.
I've actually done 7.
Whatever, but you've done a lot of them. But
Yes.
the one that really caught my attention was your Talking Heads cover of This Must Be the Place.
Oh, yeah.
And, if you don't play it, it's not a request, but I'm kidding.
Yeah, I can't. I have played that live, but it's been a number of years since I've done it. Maybe next time.
It's fine. It's fine.
I do have a cover planned for the very end.
Oh, cool. But yeah, I just, I was like, oh, she's just, we're on a beat here. We're on a beat here. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. So I do understand that you are going to be performing live.
I am. I have my electric cello here. I'm ready to play a few songs.
Sweet. All right. Well, Eric, do you have anything you want to say or ask our
No,
guest?
I'm looking forward to this. I have yet to come across a Celtic musician that I disliked, and my wife
I don't know that I'm really a Celtic musician.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry.
I wouldn't call myself
Celtronic.
Keltronic. Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I mean, I my influences are more classical, goth, pop, singer, songwriter, folk. I loved Enya and Clannad when I was like 13, 14, and I still do. But like, I don't think I'm a Celtic musician.
Oh, okay. Well, my mistake then. That's
no, it's fine. It's fine. Steampunk is also steampunk is also like that is the non-genre that I mostly have performed.
I did notice that you have an entry on the Steampunk Wiki out there. So yeah. So anyway, apologies for that. That's a result of my rushed research before the show. I'm looking forward to this, and take it away.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna make you full screen awesome. So
all right.
Me and Eric are just gonna watch.
And everyone should feel free to I guess I'll stop after this. No, I'm going to stop after the 2 original songs and talk for a minute and then play the last song. So this is a song from my latest album, Desire Pass, which is largely about spurning societal roles, becoming the person one is meant to be, things like that. But this song is called The Dream Curse. And it's a person who, when she falls asleep, she's forced to dance all night with a fairy queen, and she does not get any relief or rest at all. Now I lay me down, but I will not rest. Heavy is the crown, heaving is my chest. We spin so elegantly, and I'm lavished with praise. In the trappings of queens, we set the floor ablaze. Is this the deal I made? And haven't I paid? They say a girl should dream big, but I wandered too far into this realm where I've no power at all. In the war for my heart, I must ask who my allies are. Is this the deal, and haven't I paid? We dance all night, and I die as I wait. I know that I ask for something of interest, but it destroys me to keep this a secret. I'm ground each night, but I know illusions are cheap, and the ones who stop dancing are tossed in a heap, and the drums and the strings, they would not dare to skip a beat. Glasses are filled with sweet wine, but I can't stop to drink. I'm running on empty with no time to think, and the smile on my face shows my pain, but she never blinks. I swear I've looked for the bright side, but I so long for sunlight. Am I alone here asking why? Is this the deal, and haven't I paid? We dance all night, and I die as I wait. I know that I ask for something of interest, but it destroys me to keep this a secret. Is this the deal, and haven't I paid? We dance all night, and I die as I wait. I know that I ask for something of interest, but it destroys me to keep this a secret. Now I lay me down, but I will not rest. Heavy is the crown, heaving is my chest. Thank you very much. This next song is called Before the King, and it's about a woman cursed with the gift of clairvoyance, even if she doesn't like it. And she finally gets an audience with the king, and he's expecting her to play, her signature cheery songs that she usually gets change from people on the street. And she knows that something terrible is coming. And does she tell or not? I have a beard, it lasts before the king, and I still can, I must sing. I sing through smiling lips and pretend I don't know it's the end. I can't stop this gift of vision. I can't help but see what's coming. I've never been given a Faustian bargain, 'cause no one wants what I'm selling. Souls are a dime a dozen. I have a beard, it lasts before the king, and while I still can, I must sing. Tra-la-la-la, I sing through smiling lips and pretend I don't know it's the end. Tra-la-la-la. Everything happens not for a reason, but it has to happen to someone. I used to have a potion to quiet the visions, but now even our poison is poisoned. And I was never aspirational, only living as a cautionary tale, having to dance and beg down on my knees, my only chance at dignity, and to pretend these scraps are enough to appease the lords above. I have a beard, it lasts before the king, and while I still can, I must sing. Tra-la-la-la, I sing through smiling lips and pretend I don't know it's the end of my own space and time. I'm queen, and while I still can, I must sing. Of my own space and time, I'm queen, and while I still can, I must sing. Tra-la-la-la. Of my own space and time, I'm queen, and while I still can, I must sing. I sing the truth, death comes for us all, and now she stands in your great hall. Of my own space and time, I'm queen, but I still can, I must sing. I sing the truth, death comes for us all, and now she stands in your great hall. Tra-la-la-la, mother lover. All right, thank you. Okay, so thank you so much for having me. And I'm just in case anyone's not watching the chat, I want to remind people who are watching that this is a fundraiser and you can contribute to Skeptic Haven becoming an official nonprofit. And please do that. Thank you so much, everybody. I am going to play one more song, and then I can chat for a minute or not, whatever. This is a Christmas song, and you'll know it's a Christmas song because it has sleigh bells in it. And you'll recognize it. There's no way you won't. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special. Once bitten and twice shy, I keep my distance, but you still catch my eye. Tell me, baby, do you recognize me? Well, it's been a year, it doesn't surprise me. Merry Christmas. I wrapped it up and sent it with a note saying I love you, I meant it. Now I know what a fool I have been, but if you kiss me now, I know you fool me again. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special. Special. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. A crowded room, friends with tired eyes. I'm hiding from you in your soul of ice. My God, I thought you were someone to rely on. Me, I guess I was a shoulder to cry on, a face on a lover with the fire in his heart. A man undercover, but you tore me apart. And now I found a real love, you'll never fool me again. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, and you tore me apart. I'll give it to someone, I'll give it to someone special. Thank you very much.
It ended.
That's it.
Man.
That's it. That's it.
Oh my
Maybe
goodness.
got lost in the music.
I
Have
did.
your lighters on, everybody.
I'm still trying to find the heart here. It'll be here in the Legos, I guess. So yeah, wow, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So you use a little looper.
I do. I have
pedals,
a looper built into my amp, which is the Roland. Oh, that's my thumb. The Roland AC33, and I have a little mic attached to it, and it operates with simple foot pedals. There's actually there's a video on my channel of my song called "Forgotten and Then Found," and I actually have a little camera on my feet, so you can see when the pedals are being used and stuff like that.
That's genius. Was it like a GoPro or like a
No, it was just a second camera.
Okay.
It wasn't a GoPro. It
Oh,
was
you point it at your feet. I
had one at my feet. I had like
on your foot.
picture. It was picture in picture. Yes.
I'm thinking you're like Inspector Gadget. Do you get that reference? Where it's like,
yes,
foot camera, and it's
yes, and a shoe phone and a yeah.
Secular Rarity in chat is telling me and Nitty to go ahead and just invite you to all future shows. Don't worry about what Wes thinks about it. We're just bypassing him.
Okay, cool.
Open invite. You're now invited to every single show.
Thank you so much.
That was amazing music. I really loved listening to that. It was unique. It was something, it's got that hook it's just a unique expression of you as an individual. And while you were doing that, I was looking up your discography. You just released your 9th original album.
That's right.
Recently. Yeah. That's great. And you're available on YouTube and Spotify, and you have a website where you can where folks can go and look and get to know more about your discography.
Yeah. I also have a Patreon, which is where people hear the very newest things I'm working on. And actually, a lot of your viewers and listeners might be interested in this song that I'm writing right now, which is the most ambitious song I've written since I was 17.
Oh.
And it's called, the temporary title, working title is called "I Prayed to People." And it sounds like a little clunky. I don't know. There are a lot of things going on there. But I have to make it work because I feel very passionate about the message.
That's great.
It shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done.
Now I'm also curious, how did you find Skeptic Haven, or this community of skeptics and non-believers?
Wes contacted me on Twitter, and I came on for a show a couple years ago, I think. And I don't remember. I don't actually know how Wes found me. Yeah.
All right, that's sweet. Well, do you know what your show was about per se? Was this featuring your music, or I haven't been that far?
I think I played music on it. I think we talked. I can't remember. I think we played music. But yeah, I wrote a song over 20 years ago. I wrote a song called "Freedom from Religion," and that might
probably do it.
How he found me. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, I'm glad you've kept in touch with Wes, and you gave, I think, an incredible finish to this amazing fundraiser. So
thank you so much. And I was really enjoying everybody's
grateful.
Conversations. I was watching for several hours before my set. And I thought everybody was so erudite and kind. And that's really lovely to see.
There's a question in the chat for you. Does Unwoman listen to Primus or Les Claypool in general? Just another question.
That's not my favorite kind of music. I did get to play in Rasputina when they were on tour opening for Les Claypool, and that was really quite a fun experience in 2006. Yeah.
That is awesome.
That was fun.
Sweet. Well, it looks like we've come to the end. I guess you want to stick around for the end? Having an outro-ish?
I'll stick around for the end.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we are now at the end of our fundraiser, guys. I mean, it's been incredible. Day one had a huge panel of guests throughout the day. Some parts I've never laughed harder in my life, or at least the skeptic part of YouTube. And today, the panel's been great. I've enjoyed every single one of the people that have been scheduled to come on, who showed up and gave us insight into their contribution to the skeptic community on YouTube and the value they bring to us as a community. You know, there's so many different types of people that if you didn't find someone you identified with in the past 2 days, you weren't listening. I'm just kidding. But seriously, you know, if you're a part of some kind of marginalized community, or you feel like unrepresented community in the skeptic space of YouTube, we are here for you. Channels like these and the creators that came on are here for you. Most of them I know respond to their comments. They're grateful for every dollar, every like, every subscribe you give them. And all of that makes a difference. And you can keep making a difference by, here we go, going to tinyurl.com/giftsh2023 to make Skeptic Haven a charity organization. So that is my thank you and closing monologue for this wonderful event. Eric, what do you got to say, sir?
Yeah, this was a great 2 days. There was so many people from varying backgrounds, origins, so many different stories, so many different interests and processes that they've all gone through. It was insightful. It was neat to see how so many folks can value, you know, skepticism and communal support, and it was great. It's good for people to see this, because it's easy if you ever deconvert from religion or you're trying to examine the hard questions of life. It's easy to sit there and feel alone and not have a support group, not have anybody you can talk to. But you can hop on YouTube and you can watch shows like this as well as other channels. You can hop into the live stream chat, interact with folks, and if you really ask the right questions to the right people, you can get on the show and talk to others and get their insights and test yourself and your positions against theirs. And there's all kinds of possibilities, and the internet's really done wonders in helping us to do that. So, and Skeptic Haven's a big part of that. I really hope to see this channel continue to grow. I hope they reach their charity status very soon. And yeah, definitely looking forward to more content, more people, and more fun here.
Okay, well, it looks like we are going to close with some more music from you. It is Have Yourself a Merry Christmas, and then we will play the credits. So I want to thank everyone in the chat. We've had a very consistent audience through the entire thing. I know some of you have gone back at 2x and, you know, caught up to where we are right now. So thank you so much. Even the long-term viewing, it does a lot to support this.
Let's also thank Wes for putting in so much work, cracking the whip, and getting us all into line and everything. Him and his minions, Secular Rarity, Kat, Bree, everyone else behind the scenes. Thank you so much for doing this. You do so much hard work that's relatively unseen and unacknowledged, but this is all because of your efforts. So thank you for that too.
Yes, thank you, Eric, for covering that base. All right, so ta-ta for now, everyone. This has been Nitty on Skeptic Haven. I hope you enjoyed this and you have a great holiday coming up. And we'll see you around.
Next year I hope you enjoyed the Mythmas show. Thank you to our patrons, Amanda McLeod, Eric Ozols, Ryan, Denny Murphy, Don D, Michael Wiseman, Kathy Cotton, Cindy Plaza, Sunny Shell, Aaron Coalson, Phil Calderone. Happy holidays to the whole Skeptic Haven crew.